It's rolling.
Ready? Okay. Good morning, all. Welcome to the Iron County Commission meeting of the 14th day of October, 2019. Chad Booth will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Joyce Evans will offer our invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Community in which we live, and for the opportunity we have of serving the people around us. Bless our leaders, both local and national, that they will always make good and wise choices for the good of our country. Bless those around us that may be sick or in need of help in this community, we will be able to help them and realize their needs. Thank you for all the many blessings that we have. Bless us that we will always make good choices, and we say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you both very much. Right, we have minutes to approve of September 23rd meeting, which was the that was regular meeting or the special meeting, John?
The 27th was the special meeting.
Okay, regular meeting of the County Commission on September 23rd, and also special meeting of the County Commission on September 27th.
Okay, I'll move to approve the minutes of September 23rd and the 27th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the Iron County Commission minutes of September 23rd and September 27th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we have our reports now. Start with the assessor, Cindy. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Budget-wise, we are going to be fine for 2019. Going to be over or under overall. My vehicle maintenance, I'm going to be over just a little bit, but overall should be good. Fuel, I'm going to be tight. It's just hard to forecast a year in advance how much you're going to drive and what's going to happen with fuel costs, but overall we will finish under. We meet tomorrow for 2020 budget hearings, so we will look at those. Our new employee is working out well. I mean, he's just starting and kind of overwhelmed, but it'll be good.
Good.
With Rhonda retiring the end of last month, we will be replacing that position and opening that up. I would anticipate that will be filled from within, but then there will still be a backfill of that position. Teresa stepped up and has done a really good job with that personal property. I would encourage all of us, I know we do and think then when it happens we realize how much maybe we should have done better, but to do some cross-training. We, as department heads, I think know that that is very important, but it's hard to take the time to actually pull people off what they're good at doing and say, oh, well, now I'm going to make both of you more or less efficient while you cross-train, but I wished we'd have done better with that with personal property, but Teresa's done a really good job. I would anticipate she will step into that position, then we will backfill for that appraisal assistant position. We finished BOE, and I think it was good. I don't know, some of you may have gotten some feedback, and I would ask all of you, if you get feedback, please let me know, because my office, we can't do any better. I don't know what the problems or complaints are that are out there if I don't know. So if you're getting feedback, please let me know.
I didn't receive any. You're doing a great job.
I think there was an email sent to you, Commissioner Cousins, but we can talk about that or whatever.
So I looked through those, and was that commercial and residential, the tax adjustments? Was that?
Yes.
Was that both? Okay.
Yeah, it's overall.
Because I knew of some commercial that had concerns, but I didn't see them on there. So they must
And if the commercial don't appeal, they won't be on the report. And
Right.
Dan will probably have the more detail because he keeps track from the auditor's office. All those, I don't, but I can give you those. There seems like we only had one commercial land, and everything else was residential.
There was one residential, but I think he came in. So that's the only one I'm aware of.
Yeah.
There's one I missed. So.
Anyway, so if you get feedback, just please let me know because we, both on, but more on process. We're trying to figure out the way to make it so it is less. I don't know. Sometimes it is a little. You just get a little intimidated as a taxpayer when you walk in there and feel like you're coming up against this big group. So we're making some changes on how we do that, but we want to make it fair. We want to make people feel like they are, not that we do listen to them, which we do, and the hearing officers listen to them. But sometimes it's hard. It's hard. They taxpayers, you are attached to your house, so it's hard for us to even say, well, is there some deferred maintenance? We need to get into the house to look at it. Well, they don't want you in the house. Well, then we can't make an adjustment just based on that they say, well, there are some things that we need to do. So process we're trying to work through maybe some better, ways to be able to make those adjustments if they're warranted. UAC, as you know, I'm finishing up my last couple of months on the executive committee, so that will be bittersweet to be off of that. I'll be glad to not be traveling quite as much, but also it's been nice to have someone from Iron County on that executive board just so that we can kind of help the direction of UAC and make sure that we always have a place at the table. And Dan Jessen, as you know, is running for second vice president, so hopefully we will get
One out,
support.
one in. Yeah, we're on top of things here. Good luck, Dan.
Just so you know, we are meeting as an executive committee with Utah County on Friday, trying to get them maybe back in the fold or see what's going on there. That's caused some interesting dynamics in trying to figure out, and it will get even more interesting as we get ready for the legislative session, but they will not be attending the meetings in November. I mean, if you're not a member of the organization, then you're not invited to the member meetings. So anyway, and other than that, we're doing pretty good in the assessor's office. So if you have any questions?
Okay, appreciate it.
Thanks, Cindy.
Keep telling myself to remember there's all these people out there watching on computers, and to tell your name, we just say Cindy Dan. But so Cindy Bullock, our county assessor, and Dan Jessen, our county auditor, will now report to us.
Okay, I was going to get these to you before we started. Let's just start schedule for you guys
Oh, okay.
mentally gearing up. As usual, Cindy steals my fire, and then I steal Nicole's fire, and then, anyways, no, I'm joking. I am running for UAC second vice president. It's a crowded field. There's 4 of us, which is going to be a little interesting because the bylaws say there have to be a majority. You have to win with the majority, and they don't say anything about a plurality. So. We may be getting creative on a wrestle off, or I don't know how they'll do that, but it should be interesting. But if anybody asks you, lie to them and tell them I'm great. As you guys are well aware, we are right in the middle of budget hearings. I've talked to John about maybe putting me on a different schedule for quarterly reports. Sounds like at my busiest time I'll come up here and do this, but that's all good. We'll see. Maybe John and I will have to have a wrestle off or something, but
It doesn't bode well for me.
we're
He's into wrestling. Yeah. You were a wrestler in high school?
I did wrestle a little bit in high school.
No wonder you want wrestle off. Oh,
That's right.
thanks,
Let's do
man.
this. We've had good hearings thus far. I think you guys will agree. It's not always pleasant. It's kind of a slog to get through it. But there's 2 quotes I want to read that have to do with budgets that I've been thinking about. One of the reasons I really like the process, even though it can be a pain. Don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget, and I'll show you what you value. That's one quote. I better say who it's from. It's from Joe Biden. I'm not endorsing Joe Biden. I'm just saying it's a really good point.
Did Hunter help with that?
I'm sure he did.
Just kidding. It's Monday. We got to have some.
But your budget is that's where really where the rubber meets the road. You can have policies and you can have discussions and all this stuff, but what gets in the budget is what is the plan, and that's what's going to happen. So it's really important. And this one was another politician by the name of George Washington. He said, "We must consult our means rather than our wishes." So I always plead with the department heads to keep in mind the whole picture. That and I know that a lot of times we're in a silo of what we're doing with our job, but at the end of the day, the commission and myself have to find a way to balance it all. It all has to balance. So we just have to look at the big picture. And some years we're able to get more of our wishes and needs, and other years we have to sacrifice and slog on without the extra money. But anyways, we've been blessed, especially in recent years. Moving on, as Cindy talked about Board of Equalization, later today on the agenda, Carrie will present to you the results of that, and so you guys can vote. And I don't want to steal her thunder, but I do want to praise her. She does a great job. It's a lot of work to get everything lined up and get all those hearings together and coordinate between the assessor's office and the property owners. This year was a little bit lighter year. So it's funny how it works with the tax sale and with Board of Equalization. When the economy is really, really doing well, you'll find that our tax sale properties really slim down, and our people contesting their values kind of slim down. We don't have as many. And then when we're in the trough in a downswing, everybody is disagreeing about how much they should be paying, what their value is on their home, and we have a lot more people that appeal that, and we also have more properties, unfortunately, to go to the tax sale. So anyways, Carrie will present that. Also, this is the exact same time of year where it's the peak of our abatements season, and that's my Chief Deputy Christine, which she'll report later today on that. Some of them are year-round. Veterans can apply year-round, but the circuit breakers and the blind and the I'm missing one. All have a September deadline, and then we're working hard through those right now. So she'll come and present those. And Christine does a fantastic job. That's kind of one of these things that just happens behind the scenes, and she deals with a lot of people and a lot of people that are really in need. On that note, I spent some time up in Salt Lake recently with working on some legislation that Senator Gene Davis is pushing, and the tax commissioners are involved, and it's kind of it's a bipartisan effort to modernize our abatements. Some of the legislation that deals mainly with the circuit breaker program. What we've seen is valuations of property have jumped way up, as we know, right? But the abatement program is built so I mean, I'm talking very, very, very low income, the age of the circuit breaker. There's an inflationary factor that bumps up the amount of the abatement. It's tied, one of the things that's in the law is it's tied to the CPI. The problem is the CPI has been doing a kind of a steady growth. And they want to switch it. One of the many things that's in there is to switch it to follow the CPI-H, which is housing. It's a CPI that's tied to housing. And it more truly follows what's going on with actual values. And it's just one of the smart many things that's in there. So that'll be coming up in the next legislative session. But they involved, in some counties, the treasurer's office is the one that handles the abatements. So they involved some treasurers and they involved some auditors. And it was good to be involved. A couple of the tax commissioners sat on there, Valentine and, what's her name? Rebecca Rockwell. And really cool to be involved with them and see that. We're also looking to tweak some of the methodology that we can prorate taxpayers' abatements as they move from one property to another, or move out of the county, or move out of the state, so that they don't just completely lose their entire abatement that year. So I'm kind of cool to be involved in that process. Audit committee, we will be meeting sometime in the next couple of months before the end of the year. We need to make a decision, and I would like your input. Ultimately we'll have the audit committee that will make a recommendation. But do we want to? We did a 1-year audit with Kimball and Roberts, who won that last year. We can always just continue on with them. They did give me pricing, which was good for a certain number of years, even though we only had a 1-year contract, or we can put it out for bid. I'd really like to have a discussion with the audit committee and see what their recommendation is. I have my own thoughts. I certainly don't have my mind made up, but I have my own thoughts. I'd like to see how that goes with the audit committee, but something to think about. Would love your input. Ultimately, we'll decide what we're going to do, but that's got to happen in the next couple of months. Last year, we waited clear until like January to do the RFP, and as a result, we got a really late in the year audit. So I hate that. I like to stay on the front end rather than on the back end of those and pushing deadlines from the statutory limits of when we can have ours done. So finally, my office we've been working very hard to switch over to a digital requisition system. This is something that I've been pushing and we've been working on for the past year really hard. This has been August, my deputy August, in her wheelhouse. She's been doing a ton of work, and it takes so much work to be in the middle of the old paper requisitions and switching over to digital and training offices and getting them set up and troubleshooting when they can't figure it out. So we're now officially done training and have everybody on board that we're going to do digital requisitions. It's really neat. They can go online. They can see what their budget is in that line item. They can create a requisition, scan in documents if they want, and attach it to it. So they don't, if they don't want to, even have to come over. We still need a paper copy for purposes of our records keeping. Until we get to the point where I feel comfortable to switch completely over to digital. We have to keep these things on record for a certain amount of time, and until Jared and I can come up with a just ironclad way to make sure that we have that and we switch everything over. We still have to have a paper record of it. We will be switching that eventually, but for the time being, we're able to save a lot of time and effort. It saves August time and effort. Hopefully, I know it's a little bit of burden for the department heads to have to enter something in rather than just write something on an invoice and sign it. It does allow them, however, to see where they stand in that budget line item as they're entering it. The other advantage of that is my reports that I pull, as soon as that requisition is approved, it is encumbered funds and it will come off their budget. So when I send out a budget report, it shows the money has spent. The check may not go out for another month, but the money is spent and their budget is spent. That way their report is actually really close to accurate. The only thing the report doesn't show is something that A, my office isn't aware of, or B, the requisition hasn't been put in the system yet and approved. So I keep telling the department heads it's a little bit of extra work, but it will give you a lot more of an insight into where your office is at as we move through the year, and so hopefully that's a good thing. And finally, Carrie, we have been working with her to also modernize our time entry. We've been on paper timesheets for quite a while, and we switched over a little while back and tried out Encode's digital time entry, and it was a disaster. Encode would tell you that. Their time entry was a disaster. And so they went out and bought a company called ExecuTime. Last year in the budget, in the budget you guys approved, we went ahead and we subscribed. We bought the ExecuTime piece, and we have been doing a slow rollout of it. It's been quite a process, but we do have the whole courthouse on, and the departments that have had a clean run, we've been making them submit paper timesheets and do it digitally, and until they match. And because every time we have there's a difference between what happened on paper and what happened in the digital system. So we're not going to switch them over to completely digital until we have a perfect match. And so we've been working through and getting the departments on. It's a lot of training, but the cool thing about it is it's browser based. The employee enters their time and they sign off on it. The supervisor comes in, they review their time, match it up with whatever the calendar they use to, for time off and all that, and then they approve it, and then immediately it's in Carrie's system. So in the long run, it's going to save a lot of time. Carrie on payroll weeks works massive amounts of overtime just to handle the total load that comes through. My goal when we get done with this is that she won't have to do a lot of that time entry. Now she'll have to go through and review things to make sure that everything is accurate, the correct time codes were used that are able. But we're slowly moving through. Like I said, we have the courthouse on, everybody trained. The next group of departments will be the justice court, where we have the attorney and the building department, and all of those people will get on, and then we'll slowly march through. Law enforcement will be last. We're waiting for a patch that they're going to do, which will be around February. Law enforcement is always the biggest nightmare because they have all these pay codes. They're on an 86, 2-week schedule versus a 40, week, one every week schedule. They're kind of all over the map, and so they're very tricky. The reason why the ExecuTime was really interesting to us was they had built theirs and specialized in law enforcement, and that's always the biggest pain for payroll and HR department. So, anyways, we're just moving along with that. So,
Is there an app that goes with that they can put on their phones, or?
I don't know. That's right. There is an app. I don't use it.
Cool. That'll also eliminate some department heads driving their cards over from Cedar. Eliminate that. Save time.
Every
save
Monday. Yep.
Expense. So
Time and gas.
thanks for bringing us up to 2020.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
It's not without its pain and suffering, but we'll get through it.
Nothing good is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, our treasurer, Nicole Rosenberg. Good morning.
Morning. How are you guys?
Good.
Thanks.
Your
Thank you.
quarterly handouts.
Thank you, madam.
Just feel like right now is a busy time for everybody. We send our file for our tax notices to be printed, and hopefully they will be in the mail by the end of this week. So we've been busy and diligently trying to get everything balanced and rolled into our office, and we work with Carrie in the auditor's office, and I just can't compliment her enough. Everything she sends into us is just so balanced and perfect, and she is very, very good to work with, making sure that we get good information. So we appreciate her so much. My first is my product sales, just to kind of let you know where our collections are. Of course, we're approaching our big time, but still from January 1st to now, we've collected over 15 million. So we've been nice and busy, but in the next about less than 60 days, we collect around 40 million. So really busy time for us, but we have good help, and so we are able to do that because of our good help. But then the next paper is just showing of that 15 million we've collected so far, how much of that has come directly to the county. So about 2.5 million has come directly to the county. Our pool cash, we're still here at the end of the year and still doing great in our accounts. We still have 33 million in our accounts and just holding good and steady there. Our interest has been really good this year, even though the rate is falling a bit. As of the end of September, our interest alone was $683,000. So I think we're going to exceed last year, which was at $753, where we still have the 3 more months of interest. So
That helped. What was the highest rate that it went to?
it almost got to 3. It was 2.99, and now we're down to 2.75. I hate to see it going down, but I keep hoping it will rebound, but we'll stay cautiously optimistic. Our outstanding, of course, has really changed because we did get down to around 5 million, but with our billing of taxes, now we're up to 48,900,000. So now we've got lots of work to get collecting and get that back down. We billed out around 44,566,000 between special assessments and taxes. So we'll get going on that. We did kind of take on the special service district. So it was bringing in through Wells Fargo about $36 in interest a month. And now it's up to around $700 because I put it on its own PTIF account. So far, since putting it on that PTIF account, I printed out, it's earned $2,900. So that will really help. I know John's mentioned with insurance, and
We're super grateful. Yeah, that'll pay for the insurance that we'll need to buy, and then some.
yeah, our local banks just cannot compete with PTIF. So I was really glad we were able to get it set up that way, and so that will help a little bit with some of the expenses. So glad
I'm
that.
also grateful that it's under the county umbrella. It was going to become too much for me to handle when we're anticipating possibly using that account for the build out of the road, Iron Springs Road, possibly in association with that Alton coal mine.
It's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
Just for the public, will you just tell them what the acronym PTIF is? Every now and then I know a lot, sometimes acronyms drive people crazy.
It's the public funds, so it's through the state treasurer's office, and of course, Treasure Damshin is incredible. He's over his national association, and so smart, and they're just able to get such good rates, and so they're great. But it's the public treasurer's pool, and so they're just so good and so good to work with too. So our tax notices hopefully will be in the mail by the end of the week. Today we're trying to actually email our tax notices. So we're growing every year, and we're up to around 7,000 that we have email addresses. And so we've been having a couple problems, so we're hoping to get those worked through so we can get those emailed and out today. My budget is super good, of course, right now, because I spend all my money in the next, between now and the end of the year. So that is when my bolt goes out, and I always hope that we've put enough in there to pay for tax notices and for our credit card fees. Of course, with our millennial world, that's the way it's going. They want to pay online or with cards. My son is a prime example of that. He doesn't even have a checkbook. He has his debit card and bill pay, and can't imagine why in the world I would think he might need some checks, but
Yeah.
so
So
that
do you
is
recall what the cost is of the sending out the paper notices? How much are we going to save when we get it completely changed over to email?
it is, of course, the postage is quite expensive. We sent 12,000 already, and then there'll be a little additional amount usually for postage, and then it's about 10,000 for the printing and the paper and all of that. So,
So 15, 16,000, something like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Good savings.
so we're hoping that with Tyler we keep having a few glitches with our emailing the notices, to where, of course, right now I wouldn't even feel comfortable with going solely email, but we're hoping we can get all of that worked out to where eventually, with legislature changes, we do have the option of paper or email, so we could just shift, the 7,000 we have right now and take them out of our mailing. So that's what we're hoping for eventually, but like I say, till we get our glitches worked out, I think for now we need to do both. So, but hopefully we'll move in the right direction with that. The last paper, we've talked a lot about tax adjustments in our treasurer's group. We've also talked with Seth Ovison with the state auditor's office when he came in. I try to not do a lot of tax adjustments, but we are entering into the time of year where we end up having, for instance, I've had to do a few just entities that have gone from private ownership to exempt, and we have to prorate the tax. We always have some that were billed as secondary, and then they're actually a primary residential. And during May, we have, the properties that go to tax sale that go back to the county, that we remove those taxes. So I think I'm just going to start keeping on spreadsheet any tax adjustment I make and maybe bring them into you monthly, quarterly, whatever you would like, just so that any adjustment that I make, you see, and I have your approval to make those.
If you just want to do it when you have your report, unless you feel like it's something that
Okay.
we need to see earlier than that.
That would be great
fine.
if that's okay with you. So I try to not, of course, do any that don't come to me either for, as an appeal or something from Cindy that's adjusting secondary to primary. And of course, those at the tax sale, they bring in, and approve the ones that have gone to sale and that go back to the county. But I don't know that we've actually formally brought them in and said, okay, this is the amount of taxes that we had to remove due to them going back to the county. So I think it'd just be good that I do that, and then that will keep the state auditor happy in knowing that you all have seen and approved any adjustment that is made. So we'll try to start doing that so that we stay compliant and keep Mr. Dougal happy, and we always want to do that. I always want to be compliant with anything that they may ask. We try hard to work with Dan's office to make sure many eyes are on. No one can start and end a process without the other office being involved, and so we try really hard to make sure we're being diligent and prudent with our public funds. We never want to have a problem, and so we do try to keep our eye on that. But we are always open to any suggestion, anything we can improve and do better. I always want to do that. So,
Excellent.
all right.
Thank
Any
you so much.
questions or? Okay.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Carrie Jeffries, our recorder. Good morning, Carrie.
Morning. How are you guys?
Good.
Good. All right, so in the recorder's office, we're still just recording. That's what we do. People are still buying and selling, so we're still recording. Our recordings are up just slightly, about 200. We had 3,987 this quarter. I have 1,477 transfer documents. Our foreclosures were actually down to 2, which I looked, and that was the least we've had for several years. Of course, I'm sure that goes along with the economy. When the economy's good, we have less, but I think that's great because I hate to see people lose their houses. So, and then our plats were at 10 this quarter, so we're still doing lots of developments. For the year, we have 26 plats so far this year, so I'm sure we'll probably get to about 30. I did look just because I was curious at our busy, craziest time, which was 2006, I believe. We had 50, so we're a long ways from that, but that was also not good because that's kind of what made the market crash, so we'll be happy with 30. Our total revenue was $161,002.25, and my budget's great. I think we'll probably fall just slightly under on everything, so everything's looking good.
Excellent.
And that's it. If you guys have any questions.
Nope. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, thank you.
Should it?
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, and now Joyce Evans, our fair director. Who's feeling better these days, or less pressure since the fair is over?
A little bit. We just start all over again. We basically had a pretty good year at the fair. The weather cooperated with us. We had good weather. The crowds we had were slightly up, only by just a few, but they were slightly up. So I don't know whether we have kind of capped our crowd, and that's about what we'll have, or whether it's going to keep climbing. I don't know. The portable bleachers, the grandstands that we got, were a wonderful addition to the fair this year. It added about 300 seats and gives us gives us a chance to put seats where we couldn't put them, like across the track. We moved them over to the practice arena for a while, put them back over. We were going to take them up to the parade and have one set up there, and then it got a little crazy and we decided not to do that this year. We may try. I think the choice that we made for Grand Marshal this year was great. Dutch was so appreciative, and his family came, and it was really good. The Sunday evening program was great this year. We had a full house, which we haven't had for quite a while, and so that made me really happy. I think she was really good. If you find any others, we tried to get the piano guys to come for next year, but they don't do anything on Sunday. Our major grandstand events, the Mud Bog Demo, Friday Night Rodeo, and PRCA, all paid for themselves this year. The only reason the PRCA Rodeo did was because everything that we sell, banner-wise, advertisement-wise, went towards it unless they were specifically assigned to the Mud Bog or the Demo or the Rodeo. So, and that makes quite a bit of money for us. So that was good. That
If we break even, we're happy on the fair. That's great.
we don't break even.
Oh.
Sorry.
I know we have some.
We don't break even.
I know we have some, TRT and so on. But anyway, if with the ones we've always had, if we break even.
The carnival made us about $17,000 this year, which that's probably more than we've ever made on a carnival, which pays basically for the exhibit building. The arena events pay for themselves. We have a little bit with the vendors, but we have entertainment and our wages and a bunch of stuff that doesn't quite pay for itself. Next year's improvements, we're going to, I hopefully want to put a window in the announcer stand so that they can see the timed events over there. They have complained ever since they've come in. I got a bid from Tiger Grimshaw. And he said he'd put it in for $1,200, so it's not going to be a huge cost to us. And Parowan City upgraded our electric expansion in the arena area this year at no cost to us. And they did the labor and the and all of the equipment, which came to probably right around $12,000. So they did a big upgrade. I'd like to be able to do the south upgrade this year that goes down along the vendors and out in that extra area, and it will probably be. I've got a bid here, but it's pretty, about 10 or 11,000. So that's the what I'd like to do for improvements on the grounds this next year if possible. Budget-wise, I don't know all the numbers yet because I spend all my money in September, and it's getting close to everything, I think. So I think we'll come in just slightly under budget, maybe, hopefully. And the line items are up and down. Some of them I spent over, some of them are under, but I think bottom line will be slightly under. Any questions or thoughts?
Great fair once again. We appreciate your efforts and all your staff and volunteers. It's an amazing thing to pull that all together. And
Hundreds and hundreds of volunteers to make it work. It couldn't work without people really jumping in and helping.
Our family enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
no matter how big this county gets, I hope we never lose the tradition of a county fair. It's so wonderful.
It is a great tradition, and people just really come and flock to the area just to be here for the fair. Okay, any other questions?
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much. Commissioners, do you have anything to report?
Not off the top of my head. I didn't prepare anything today.
Okay.
Don't have any. 5 counties going well. Just we had our meeting in Glendale and lots of issues. I don't have anything particular I want to bring up. But,
Okay. Joyce, go ahead.
I'd like to add one thing.
Okay.
I'm really appreciative to the sheriffs this year. They did a remarkable job. Parowan City came in, then the city department came up and helped. So the sheriffs really makes it a good, safe place to be.
Thanks for that shout out. Yeah, we do appreciate our law enforcement, our first responders, and so on. They're firemen. They just, wonderful people. And we're grateful here in this county that we have Gold Cross Ambulance. Was in meetings at USAC, which is Utah State Association of County Commissioners and County Council persons, and in the smaller counties in the state, there's a real critical situation of not being able to get enough volunteers. For example, when they had that terrible accident over on Highway 12, the EMS director from Paiute County wanted to go and help, and he did, but he was all by himself. And you really can't do, one person can't do an ambulance. And so anyway, but he went and did what he could. So it's a critical situation, and I hope that there's a solution for it. But I'm grateful that we're large enough that, a company like Gold Cross is willing to take our ambulance. But I don't think they would be willing to do these smaller counties because there's no profit in it. So I'm not sure what the solution is going to be, but it's really a serious situation.
Mr. Chair, I guess there was one thing I thought of. We did have a pre-bid meeting on the Iron County Road Department building we're going to be constructing, and we've got about, I think it was 11 bidders, so that's good, and a lot of interest in that facility. So.
Thank you. It's going to be a nice facility. Yes, please.
Could I
You bet.
Dan thought it might be a good idea for me to talk about this in my budget meeting, but I thought maybe I'd talk about it now. As the secretary of Iron County Special Service District Number 3, which is, we use a lot of acronyms, but basically that is the entity that we created to receive the SRS or the Secure Rural Schools money, which Commissioners Blake and Cousins helped lobby for a few weeks ago. But we use that money we receive 40% of that money for our road materials in Iron County. And as Nicole and Dan have expressed, that this year we actually changed it from it having its own bank account to bringing it under the Public Treasurer's Investment Fund, or the PTIF accounts, which is made a huge difference on me for having to do things like the deposit and interest reports that are due, and for the transparency things. Under the umbrella of Iron County, those are taken care of for me. And so I'm super grateful for that. And as we mentioned before, with the Alton coal mine potentially ramping up, there is an anticipation that we are going to apply for and hopefully receive maybe in the neighborhood of about $5 million for to improve the Iron Springs Road. But as it stood, the little account that this fund had wouldn't have been able to support that because of the way the construction works. They have to make the draws and then receive the money, so you have to be able to float that for a while, and this account never really had that much in it. And for example, this year we received Iron County $177,504.97 in SRS monies. And so the budget I'm going to present to the SRS board later this month, of which you're a part, Commissioner, it will be $180,000 for 2020 for expenditures, and again, that goes to road materials. So sometimes we speak in acronyms and we have all these things that happen kind of in the background, but this is one I thought it would be good to maybe talk about it in a public meeting. So any questions?
Thank you. Appreciate that update. 177,000 will help, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to the 5 million we need for that road. But anyway,
That's true.
We're happy. We're happy to receive it. All helps. And
I kind of glossed over CIB, which is Community Impact Board. That's where that 5 million will potentially come if we're successful. The Community Impact Board uses royalties from oil and gas that Utah receives, and all of the hydrocarbon type fuels, and so that's why this is such a good fit, because it's essentially supporting a loadout facility for a coal mine, even though it's in a different county.
That's good news. What's the likelihood of that happening, John?
I think it's dependent on the coal mine. You guys could probably say better.
Yeah, a guy by the name of Bob Need is the owner of the Alton coal mine, and they've been mining on private land for quite some time. They've now started into the federal BLM, or they're going to. I guess that's still the holdup. They're close. They've got all. I misspoke. They've jumped through all the hoops, but there was still one thing that talked to me a while back that I don't recall that's still holding them up. But they want to bring the coal here to the rail, and as many as 300 trucks a day when it's fully in operation.
They were talking about a truck every 90 seconds, and they're big, heavy trucks, and so it would just beat our road right to death. And from our side of it, having spoken with Gary Zabriskie, he mentioned that this is actually one of the, among the things that get applied for, this is actually one of the best fits for those types of monies, because it's direct community impact from the extraction industry. So
exactly. We're not producing something that burns. That's where CIB money comes from in our county, but we have that great impact. I-15 can handle it, Highway 56 can handle it, but Iron Springs Road is going to fall apart with 300 trucks a day.
We beat it to death. So
it's an amazing operation. I stopped there on my way home from Five County one time, and they gave me a tour, and it's incredible how they mine that. They remove about 90 feet of overburden. They take the topsoil, put it aside, then they remove about 90 feet of overburden, and then they've got, I think it's about 16 to 18 foot seam of coal they mine, and then they just put it all back, and they plant it with grass. I mean, you never known they did an open strip mine. It's really amazing.
Yeah, right. Why people worry about it, I don't know, because. Anyway, this morning I got an email from this site called Route 50. I don't know if you get that. It's a lot of stuff about counties, but if you want to feel good about our economy, the U.S. Has an economy gross national product of 20 trillion plus. The next closest is China with 13 trillion. And of the top 100 economies in the world, there's at least 10 United States metropolitan areas that are in that 100. So in other words, we have metropolitan areas in the United States that have a larger gross metropolitan product than many countries have gross domestic product. So this is the promised land where we produce more than anybody else on earth. So anyway, but we don't need to spend it all in one place. Anyway, but I thought that was an interesting stat. Is there anyone else would like to say? Okay, we'll take a short break and convene for our public appointments at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Well, I just saw that. Here it said that it didn't forward from here. So I'll have to do that.
That's fine. And then, that thing I called you about with the writing title.
Yeah.
A week or so ago, some attorney from California, I'm not even sure who he's representing, but he sent an email to me and to Chad last week.
So we've got just one
Case
little
law,
public
blah,
hearing,
blah, blah.
and it might actually be a minute. I think there might
So I just
be a
need
little bit
someone
of
to look at it.
kerfuffle. Yeah.
To Chad Dodson.
So, but after.
Because he had sent something. I think it's that same guy. Me, and I didn't care. It was like the online.
All right, very good.
We have a thing that if you just want to come
Your email, we can pull that up.
in the office, you just like do it online thing. And it was a bunch of
That's fine.
stuff that wasn't very persuasive to me.
Got it.
It's gonna have to be pretty good stuff for me to.
Well, I told them.
Good. How are you?
I have to wait and hear from my county attorney because I feel like I've told you.
Kind of where I think I am.
So, like, unless.
That whatever he sent me. Not only that they can, but that they should. County should ignore what the court said.
I thought that'll be good.
And do what they think is better.
Somebody.
So I can't imagine it says that. So anyway, I would be hopeful that we're gonna want to change.
Well, it just. If Chad's like, I don't know. I just told him I can't keep arguing with you. This is what I said, so unless something changes, I don't.
So, but yeah, if
Nothing else to say about it really.
setting, it's something that
I feel
the accrual's already set up. I could just remove them on that same accrual schedule.
Let me know if you think
It
it's.
just makes sense that they could just accrue that day instead of, because they have less to try to burn through.
I have no problem doing it differently.
Because like the road department.
Perfect. And then I'll look for your email. Okay.
But your people could use it today, because you're on the state staff, the state's closed. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not, why haven't we talked about this before? She said, yeah, it's not. Yeah. So, but it just makes sense, but let's just.
Let's look at it going forward, but I'm gonna have to do it as an admin today and still approve the Friday after, because basically then they can only approve one and they actually should have to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's.
No, that makes sense, but I'm just saying going forward, like next year, let's talk to them about it, and maybe put you on that same approval, and that way they're not.
And I'm like, no. And you're gonna spend money to try to get elected for this, and I said, yeah, and she said, and you're gonna be gone and spend all this extra time?
But I just thought I'd mention it, I don't know why we just talked about it before, but it seems simple since
So
they're
why-
already.
I don't know, it's cool, be
I don't remember, because I don't remember them being closed or not, or if we even discussed it.
Yeah. Right now, it's.
Just a thought.
Hey, how are you? How are you?
The state, but some offices are closed.
What
right? No? No. No, and the only thing that passes is it's a completely polarized thing.
Or mine. Can I say another talk to you coming up?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because it's in their choir and then it happens. Yeah. That's right.
I understand where public, you know, it's not like.
I don't know.
But
No, we'll see.
it makes it hard. So in bigger counties, it's actually a state office, so in bigger counties, the state has an office, but it doesn't make sense for them to have an office in Iron County, so they contract. And it's run through the assessment office. Washington County has their own, not in Washington County, the state has their own, built their own office out in
Upgrade county seat to America's seat. There you go. I wouldn't touch that with a.
I would have to be.
3-foot pole, right?
They're all
more conservative than I am.
Well, the good thing about local government, and we'll, you put us in any group and we'll divide up in 5 months ourselves.
Yeah.
But at least there's things happening. We fight. But at the end of the day, our budget's balanced and.
Good morning. Very well, how are you? Good.
Hey, you.
Hello.
How are
Morning.
you?
I'm
How
well,
was your
thank you.
debate thing? I watched part of it online and then I got distracted and didn't get back and see the end.
It was pretty good. I mean, we only had half the candidates show up, which kind of sucks, but,
The last thing you want is everybody to think,
we broadcast it on Facebook and or everywhere. We plan on
but we are.
doing debates in the future. I think knowing that it's gonna be out there, it's gonna get advertised, will be an incentive in the future for other
But that could
candidates
change in a hurry
to
too.
want to be to that one, cause they know they get better
Depending on who
exposure
gets
to it.
elected.
It's just hard.
There's so many.
There's so many.
Yeah.
To figure out where and what and how and try to coordinate.
Looking at
Yep.
our next commission.
I know there's one tonight. Who's doing the one tonight?
It's not the Home Builders Association, or is that?
I don't know. Where are they doing it?
I'm not going.
There's one at SUU that the Levis Center is
That's
doing.
the one that I'm
And then there's one at Southwest Tech that the Home Builders Association is doing. Both of those are just.
She's super involved.
Home builders is probably during their luncheon on Thursday. When did they vote? When is it? I don't.
The ballot should be arriving like any day now.
I sent out the
I'm doing one. I mean, I'm not. The chamber, Irwin Chamber's doing one. I'm just helping them out.
and they're like, you wouldn't want to have your meeting, right? You just want to set up.
That wasn't a debate.
Like, why everybody
No,
hates it
we
when
didn't
we
have
do
time. It's so,
evaluation?
it's not a good venue to really debate. There's two, and I
Remember,
positioned that.
Ernested, there are gonna be so many people that are like, damn Jesse, I like that guy. They, you know, of course, when it comes, you know, the problem is the elections are right after they get announced, so. But still, they're, like, the accessories, they're always.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they talked about Gala and.
Say, no new, no press is bad press. That's not necessarily true, but still just name recognition is half the battle.
How do you debate seeker issues versus current issues versus narrative?
Not certain.
It was a nice meet and greet. I got to know.
Yeah.
Well, it's not too long. One time I came in like 39
I just
years
ran,
old.
because I've been a long advocate for some inflationary.
You're right.
So am I.
I mean, you see me in the state,
I
I said,
subscribe.
I said, I'll just come in there and do afterwards. And
And
it's
they
like,
make a lot
we'll
of
get
good
some
points, but I
popcorn.
just, there's an article right
Is
now.
this gonna be long? It was over the flag.
The legislature is trying to push this thing through You know, and they just demonize the living heck out of me.
They got resolved. The decision was to make no decision, because I was like,
The boy who cried wolf. Everybody says, well, nobody does taxes. You should just do it every year for a tiny little increment, right?
I don't know if I could get people excited about things that I think really, I mean, it's nice to care, but.
Then what is an increase? It just blends in. If you have an inflationary bond, then you never see increases except for when there was a real legitimate
These guys are your
increase.
receipts, usually.
And then it would make news, and then we would talk.
There are people there. I didn't see reserved or tag, so I decided.
They have two of the levies, which they have maxed out.
I was like, I like the back, I like this.
I like the back too.
In order to qualify
It's an
for
easy exit.
some state dollars.
It's an easy exit.
So every year they have to bump that thing by the tiniest amounts to keep
I don't know where you.
at its real value. Because what happens is the values bump rates slow down, and then they have to bump it up.
I should have at least had brownies or something. What is it, Columbus?
We actually switched our.
Cornbread.
We usually have to go on before I went here, but they decided
I thought they put them out
trade
because
this day
of
for
the
the day after
scarecrows.
Thanksgiving.
Oh,
If
no.
you
That's a
look
great
at the
decision.
historical ways
Yeah.
that the entities fund
How are you, young
themselves,
man?
property tax used to be like 8%.
Got a haircut? You want more aerodynamic?
Something.
No.
And then so what happens when we pass other fees, all these things that people hate, you're passing a tax for this, a tax for this. Well, that's because property tax isn't become, you know, as reliable anymore, because nobody dares to go through it, because it's suicide. And the problem is,
Some, but I have, I've
property
practiced,
tax all day
but I
long,
haven't read.
but it's the most stable tax, or less
Okay.
of our revenue, make sure it is.
Very good.
Volatile our revenue.
Overcast.
No, I like to stay under the radar.
Well, especially when I just pick you up at your house. Right.
I'll be back.
Oh, my. Good to hear you're actually watching. There's this gal on here named Brandy. You know her? Brandy was.
So those trail things ended up being much more simple than you thought. Yeah. Well, finally. I actually have to thank you for creating so much kerfuffle with Chris, because then he rewrote the letter that explained just that, and so now we're able to send out a big thing. No, this is how it all works. Step by step. Good.
Alan, how you doing? Did I miss something? Oh, this is another. That's one that we didn't do. Okay. Excuse me. We always take longer than we say we will, don't we?
Okay, so that's a new set of minutes.
Okay, we'll do those.
I had some technical problems.
Oh, now is this on the agenda? Oh, yeah, it is on the agenda. It is. Okay, good.
We're a lengthy break. Meeting time.
There you go. Well, from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
That's got to be one of your favorite sayings.
Are we ready, John? Welcome back. We are reconvened. We'll go into our public appointments. Item number 1, public hearing, discussion and possible approval of ordinance 2019-8, an ordinance of Iron County, Utah, adopting a new provision for urban farming by amending 17-16 or 17.16.020 use definitions, section 17.17.030, table of uses, section 17.36.250, the keeping of domestic animals, section 17.30.020, agricultural use classifications and definitions, section 17.30.030, swine operations, or swine operations, section 17.30.040, excuse me, animal operations other than swine, and adding section 17.36.290 farm stand, excuse me, and providing an effective date. Recommended for approval by the Iron County Planning Commission at their regular meeting of September 5th, 2019, presented by Reed Erickson, our county planner / special.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would just do a brief introduction here and to explain a few bullets of what this ordinance does, and then a couple of things of what it doesn't do. But first, this ordinance was really initiated as a result of the state providing a mechanism to have urban farming as a tax benefit for under the Urban Farming Assessment Act. And in order for people to take advantage of that opportunity, the county has to adopt an ordinance authorizing the urban farming and taking advantage of the Urban Farming Assessment Act. So first of all, the ordinance does that. It puts into place a definition for urban farming, the Urban Farming Assessment Act, and identifies what properties those uses are allowed, which is in all residential zones, every zone. It also provides, this ordinance provides for seasonal sale of production from the site in all residential zones. Previous to this ordinance change, those uses were not allowed in R1 half, R1, or R2. They were simply allowed in R5 and A20. So this provides for the sale of production from a farm seasonally for the things that they grow on the farm in all zones, all residential zones. It also provides for the seasonal sale of off-site production, so they can bring in things from off-site, peaches from Hurricane, watermelons from Green River, whatever, and sell on site in all residential zones. That was previously not allowed in the R1 half or R1, and that's done under our current ordinance for temporary use. It also provides for the year-round sale of on-site production and off-site production, up to 50% of total sale in the residential zones, except for R1 half. That was previously not allowed in R1 or R2. It was part of that same production for seasonal only, but this now allows for year-round sale in those areas. It also attempts to account for the rights of adjacent property owners to enjoy their property without excessive noise, odor, and traffic beyond what they would expect in living together in an organized community. So it provides some balance, or tries to attempt to say there are limits on the things that you can do for farm stands in relation to the size, parking, traffic, and those things where we're doing more of a commercial use for year-round sales. It also, this ordinance addresses one other tweak in the ordinance that doesn't have anything to do with urban farming, has to do with a question that we had of accessory outside storage of flammable materials and hazardous materials. We just added this at the end of the ordinance to take care of that without having to do a separate ordinance to do that. But it doesn't really relate to farm. So the thing I think that are still of concern to some is that what the ordinance doesn't do is it does not allow for pigs in the R1 half zone. So it prohibits pigs in R1 half, because one of the other things it does do is it separates what we had previously in the ordinance as hobby farm and now defined as urban farm. And so the animal unit numbers allowed for each zone are now different for urban farm versus hobby farm. And so we've created those category segregations, and it does not provide for animal or for pigs, swine in R1 half. It also does not allow for farm stands in R1 half. And it also doesn't regulate you'll hear comment about a desire to regulate based on lot size rather than on the zoning. And so it doesn't do that. It doesn't say if you have a certain amount of acreage, then you can do these things regardless of the zone. So that was one of the concerns that was addressed by the Planning Commission as well. So I think that's a brief overview of what the ordinance does and doesn't do, and I'll be glad to take any questions or now or at the hearing, after the hearing, if there are questions.
Any questions from the commission at this point before we have the public come forward?
No, not before the hearing.
Okay. The public hearing is open. Bill, welcome to come forward. If you have comments, come to the microphone, please, and state your name.
Good morning. I'm excited to be here. My name's Cimbria Patterson, and the reason I'm excited to be here is because we started on this in 2014. It was a personal issue for my teenage daughter who really kind of started all this even before the urban farming state ordinance that was passed. It was over the farm stand, which is a piece in this. And now I'm also here because of that. We started a nonprofit, so I also represent Red Acre Center. And I want to thank Reed, and we've been through a few commissioners over that time, and Chad, and the compromise has been really great and appreciated. And at the last Planning Commission meeting, they passed off what Reed presented, and I emailed this to John. I also have a USB port. It's up there. So this is, because of our organization, that's how we end up getting all this feedback. We worked with citizens. We had a lot of feedback from people in the community. There are also some members from another group that meet on a regular basis. I always forget their initials, PC. And they gave input, and there were some lawyers that had their eyes on this. We think this is a little bit improved, not really much change from what Reed recommended and the Planning Commission. The biggest one is, do I have a time restriction? So I'll talk fast. I just wasn't sure it was. So
usually we have 3 minutes, but yeah.
The biggest change that the Planning Commission, and I know Commissioner Cousins was there, and Reed, I don't think they disagree. They felt like they should pass it off, but the citizens were most concerned about allowing swine and farm stands even in our half. The original recommendation and what you're seeing doesn't allow that, and we felt like we made that even better by putting on the actual, because I know Reed's concern is that there are not true R halves. So we put an actual lot size, so there would be no way for them to be able to do it unless they were truly an R half. And if you guys, I just didn't want to take the time to go to that
on the
page.
screen, John? The one
I just didn't know if I'd run out of time.
the one that she's sent you?
It's page 14.
I think maybe we ought to let her take more than 3 minutes. Just
No, that's fine. I mean, if we had 50
So,
people here
given
to
that-
testify, we'd cut it to 3. But yeah, you can take more than.
Where
3
am I
minutes.
going?
It's
Okay.
page 14.
3 minutes, but we won't time you, so you're
Okay,
good.
I'll breathe now. I was going to start talking really fast. It's page 14, and we added, so our document, black is what was the original ordinance, red was what Reed and the Planning Commission recommended, yellow is what we'll call the citizens are recommending to change. So on page 14, since there are 2 yellows, we did cross out something that he recommended, and it is required with a farm stand with the current recommendation that you apply for an extended home occupation. And with that, you are required to have appropriate off-street parking. Also, when you grant that extended home occupation, that can be a discussion, the parking spaces, and they notify their neighbors. So we didn't feel the need to have required only for farm stands, because no one else who applies for these has to specifically have 2 off-street parking. So we struck that. And then the other yellow highlight is with the request that we have to expand to allow farm stands even into our halves, because there are a lot of our halves in our county. the concern would be that the lots were too small, so we included on L the actual square footage of a real R half. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
And I can show you the other changes, but I'm not limited to 3 minutes.
Fine.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
So page 3 is the accessory agricultural sales, which was a brilliant and great idea, and made this, because we happen to be a little biased. We think farm stands are a great idea and having local food available everywhere. This, it really just kind of cleans up the language. You guys can take the time to look at that. It doesn't, who it really reaches out to, and I don't, they're just, everybody was focusing on different things over the course of all of those meetings with the Planning Commission. But what our changes specifically do is they modified it so it would allow those who hold and harvest a product like hay, because in the original draft, you'll see that the commission's recommending they say in season and when it's being produced. So honey or hay wouldn't be allowed, because it wouldn't be in season, right? You're not harvesting hay in January, but you might have a barn full that you want to unload. So the next, our changes cover those who have, it says that it talks about all products for sale must be grown on site. Well, what happens if you lease 10 acres from Commissioner Adams? So we changed it so that it would allow people to be able to have non-continuous acres. If they were using someone's greenhouse in town and they wanted to sell on their piece out in the county, then they'd be able to do that. And the third thing that it addresses is it said you had to have a permanent structure. And we felt, I know that I can't think of his name. He runs the commission, the Planning Commission, Phil. He was concerned about ugly structures sitting on a curb, and our answer to that is you can't build a permanent structure unless you've gone through zoning and compliance. So any permanent structure is going to have to be according to code. And what if you had a barn? You wouldn't be able to sell from it. So we don't see a reason to only have a permanent structure. You can't have a permanent structure, so we allowed for permanent structures. I think those are good improvements. I don't see any real changes in that. And then we reworded the farm stand on page 4. There's no changes. It doesn't change anything. It just gets rid of a lot of the excess verbiage in there. It's pretty much the same. And then of course on page 5, those are the boxes. So that's the thing I keep talking about, is that we would change, wait, is that tiny? That X where they're not allowing it, it would now be allowed in our halves, which includes, all of Fifetown. There's right there. It would allow it. Of course, that is, you have to pay the $250, and that's the extended home occupation, and you would be under all the same requirements.
Would you want that to be permitted instead of an A zone administrative land use permit?
No, that's a mistake. Yep, that's a mistake. Good job. You know how many people have looked at this? Good job. No, it would not be permitted. It would be allowed. It would be under all the same requirements as everyone else. So the P is a mistake. We're volunteers. We don't have a lot of paid staff.
No, so you want an A.
It's be an A instead of a P.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Not
and
a problem.
Down on the swine at the bottom, it would be permitted. Where it's not allowed at all, it would be permitted. And I think I jumped to the beginning, to the end in the beginning. I think that's it. The one that we really covered in the beginning was that lot size. So if you gentlemen don't have any questions, that's what we're suggesting. And we know that it's inevitable that there's always going to be pushback about rural Iron County, but we're going to be St. George and Vegas, and California used to be rural too. So we just would like to put it off as long as possible because, believe it or not, the Californians are the champions for this. They know what they lost there and they hate it and they don't want it to happen here. So anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other comments, public comments regarding this issue?
Just a clarification that, as Reed said, this does allow for the tax changes that would be similar to Greenbelt for those smaller acres that are now not eligible for the Greenbelt classification because they're less than the 5 acres. But even though the ordinance allows for animals, the Greenbelt under the urban farming does not. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands, and it is on record, that even though the ordinance may allow for swine or horses or whatever, that is not, that doesn't mean it's not eligible for the urban farming under the Greenbelt classification for the tax structure. It says under the bill that was passed, it is only for crop. Urban farming means food that is subject to subsection blah, blah, blah. Urban farming means cultivated food or other marketable crop with the reasonable expectation of profit, blah, blah, blah. And then urban farming does not include cultivating food derived from an animal or grazing. So even though it's allowed and they can have animals on their property, that is not going to be given that tax structure of the Greenbelt. So,
okay, what's the minimum lot size at that from the legislature? Did they put a minimum size on?
I don't think there's a
Greenbelt.
I'm sure there is, but I
Nodding
can't
back there.
remember.
Yeah, 1 acre.
Okay.
1 acre.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
I can answer her comment, and I appreciate it. We use that same language there in the Assessment Act that does not include in cultivating food derived from an animal or grazing. The same language that comes from state law is what the definition we're using in this ordinance as well. So I'm glad that she pointed that out.
Excellent.
Good morning, I'm Brad Green. I'm here representing the Advocates for a Prosperous Community, otherwise known as APC. I just wanted to go on record that our group endorses the version of this ordinance that Ms. Patterson showed earlier, incorporating the change that she said was a typo. We agree with that assessment. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other public comments regarding this ordinance? Any more second call? Any more comments regarding this ordinance? Okay, seeing none, Chair declares the public hearing closed. We'll go into the discussion and possible approval of the ordinance at this time. So, commissioners, any comments you have?
I've met with Cimbria and others and read through this, and I do appreciate all the efforts the Planning Commission, the Reed, and everybody, Chad, and everybody has been involved in this. I think it's been a long process, but I think it's I think that we need, if we were to err on anything, I would like to see us err on the side of property rights and freedom versus restrictions. I like the changes that have been presented. So.
I'm going to keep my comments really brief just because I'm sick. Don't have a voice. But I've had an opportunity really throughout probably the last year to look at this issue as well. You know, I've met with a lot of people and the folks at Red Acre Farm, another one, for instance, Nature Hills Farms, that I've had the opportunity to spend some time and look at their operation. I've also had an opportunity to speak with a lot of other people in the community, neighbors, and just other constituents about their feelings towards this ordinance. I would echo Commissioner Cousins' statements as far as, I think that we're always safer to err on the side of property rights and making sure that people have the right to use their property as they would see fit for their benefit. And I've become a real fan of urban farming, not knowing what that was before I got involved in this, but it's really pretty cool. If you have an opportunity to visit some of these places, and for example, Nature Hills Farm is having an event. I think it's this weekend that we approved for a special use permit with the commission. I think it's important for people to be able to look and know where their food is coming from. We don't grow steaks in the back of the grocery store. I think it's just great, educational, and for those that want the experience of having fresh food, and it's just kind of a cool movement. I will just end with that.
Okay, thank you both. I am generally fine with the changes requested, except as far as swine, and I pondered this a long time, but I think 5 swine is too many in an R1/2. But I think there's a person that lives in R1/2 that would like to fatten a hog. And so if we approve that, I would like that changed to 1, just 1 hog. In other words, you couldn't have a brood sow on your R1/2, but you could have 1 pig. And obviously, if you stunk up the area and it bothered your neighbor, you didn't keep your pen clean, then then there's ordinance. We have ordinances to take care of that. But I would like that changed, because I don't think we need people in the commercial hog business on a ½ acre. But for your own family use, why not be able to buy a wiener hog pig from somebody else and fatten it? But the other changes I'm fine with. So, is there further discussion?
I'm curious to hear what Cimbri and others think about that. I respect that, Commissioner. My philosophy has always been my rights end where yours begin, and just like you said, I mean, if you start doing things on your property that affects your neighbor to the point where they can't enjoy the tranquility and peace, then we've got a problem. But
the only thing I want to sorry, Sarah Patterson. I think that 2 is better, because if you have like 1 goat or 1 anything, they're way easier to manage, and they don't. Animals do better in pairs. So I would say that if you're going to limit it, I'd do 2. And people who have potbelly pigs or things like that as pets in their house, I mean, it's not something I want, but I think it's also important to keep the pigs because of that too. So, because it's not always a meat pig, even though that's what I would rather have. I like bacon better than a pig in my house. So, but I would say 2 is a better option.
Okay, thank you. And I would definitely, if that's what the motion is, that would probably be fine. But I think it needs to be iterated that you can't have, a sow farrowing there, because all of a sudden there's 13 instead of 1. So.
Brad Green. So my opinion on the pig issue, I echo what Sarah said about 2 pigs. We raised some pigs a while ago, and we discovered that 1 pig is far more likely to die. For some reason, they just don't survive as well solo.
So I didn't think about I'm sorry. I didn't think
about
the mental health aspect.
It's a great idea. But so aside from that, the rub, and this was discussed significantly through the process. The rub is that there are significant sized parcels that are zoned R1/2. You know, 2 acres, 5 acres, even some 10 acres, I'm told, that are zoned R1/2. And so you might think 5 pigs is a lot, but on 10 acres, maybe it's not. And so that was where the recommendation kept coming up, that maybe we ought to have lot size instead of lot zone for some of these things. So, you know, maybe saying 2 pigs on actual 1/2 acre or even 1 acre R1/2, that would be reasonable and sensible in my opinion, but on 10 acres, maybe not so much. Thank you.
I think that's an important
I do too.
point that Brad brings up, because we do have a lot of parcels out there that were designated as R1/2 back before the recession that were planned to be developed. I like the proposed square footage in the property to designate it a true 1/2 acre. And we've discussed this before, but I think that going down the line, maybe we need to look at some of those areas that are zoned R1/2 that are 20, 40 acres, and see if it's appropriate to move those back to where they need to be, so that there is not confusion in the future.
Okay, and just that raises one question. So if someone had 10 acres that was zoned R1/2, then if they did decide to subdivide that into R1/2 lots, then would you want that to come down, the animal units to come down to what we had in the I mean, that seems to be reasonable, that, you know, if they did eventually develop it, then they would have to come down.
Come back down.
To comply.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Commissioners, can I just make one point?
Please.
For you? I would respectfully disagree with Mr. Green. I think that if your acreage is larger than the 1/2 acre, then you can go through the rezone, and you have a lot of world of possibilities that open up to you. From an enforcement perspective, it's much more difficult for the building department or even the county attorney's office to deal with this on a square foot or acreage measurement rather than the zoning district that's applicable to. I think that probably the building department would probably be pretty willing to work with an individual that says, I have this high density zoning, yet I have a large acreage. I'd like to rezone to a lower density. And then that person has a lot of other options available to them. It just makes it harder from an administrative perspective when we do things based upon the acreage rather than the actual zoning.
So how do we handle the numbers, let's say on the R1, R2, or R5? I mean, is that something we want to determine now, or as far as how many more swine you could have on those bigger plots, or?
I'm not taking a position on whether you approve the ordinance with the changes or not. I would recommend from an administrative perspective, the reason why you have a zoning district is so that you can say, these are the regulations applicable to this area. We're not going to look at each lot individually. That makes it much more difficult to administer. You have a zoning district, and if the zoning district isn't appropriate for the area or the lot sizes, then they go through a rezone and they figure it out that way.
And we've had some of that happen lately. I know we had one recently that they went back to R20 from smaller lots, or A20, excuse me.
And that's a legislative decision. The commission has a lot of broad authority to grant those requests if they come before the commission. I'm not aware of a lot of rezoning requests that aren't granted. I mean, it's typically pretty permitted, especially if you want to go to a lower density. Do you think that'd be accurate, Reed? If you want to go to a lower density.
The Planning Commission had talked about this significantly as we've evaluated this ordinance, and saying we do have a lot of large properties that were zoned, you know, to be subdivided into smaller lots, but then the economy wasn't such, and one reason or another they didn't develop. And so it makes sense to rezone those back to what they were before, for a use that's commensurate with what's occurring on the property.
Right.
Or what they intend for the use of that property, at least for the foreseeable future. Then when they get ready again to develop, or there are opportunities to do that, then they can apply for that reason. Like Commissioner Blake mentioned, I think that that's the next step in fixing a lot of these areas. We have a fair amount of that throughout the county that we could clean up and make the lots, the zoning fit what the uses are and the lot sizes are currently, because we've effectuated a number of zone changes in the past and then those uses never developed.
So Reed, if you had 5 acres that was zoned R1 half, what would the process? They just go to planning commission, and they would come to us. It's that simple, right? Is there a fee involved in?
There's a zone change application fee is $250.
$250.
Because we do notify surrounding property owners and do advertising public hearings at both locations. Planning commission.
Can public?
But our interest would now be to do that without charge to the property owners, try to identify as many of those properties as we can, and do a county-initiated rezone for most of those properties.
Can a rezone be halted because of public clamor typically or not?
A rezone can, because it's a legislative decision. So you can consider a lot of information, what the effect it has on the surrounding area and all of that. When it comes to an administrative decision, then no, you cannot have public clamor or public comment be an influence in your decision. But a rezone decision is a legislative decision, so you have a lot of broad discretion there.
So, maybe that item, depending on what your feelings is, we could leave that for now and come and revisit that after we've thought about it some more.
Do we want to table this, or do we want to go ahead and approve it based on tightening that up later? How do we want to do that? I mean, I don't want to keep kicking this down the road. I want to get this done. I mean, it's.
I would rather approve. I would rather approve something, and I mean, if we need to look at that issue a little bit more and just make sure we're doing the right thing. I'd rather table this much of an issue than this much of an issue.
I agree.
So I did find in 59-2-1703 qualifications for urban farming assessment 1A item 3, it does say at least 2 somewhere it says 2 acres.
That's an old.
At least 2 contiguous acres, but less than 5 acres. I thought it was 2, but this was as of.
I'll have to go back and look at that because
that was the way it originally came out. Then last year they modified that to 1 acre.
To 1,
That's
okay.
what I thought, but I'm just looking at the code that was as of superseded January 1st, 2020. Okay.
What was the reference on that, Cindy?
Goodness, you guys, I gotta get my.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry.
59-2-1703. This is like.
Your arm's not long enough, Cindy.
This is me. Like some days I'm good and some days I'm not, and I'm fighting that.
I have the same problem with distance, not up close. Okay, any further discussion before we entertain a motion? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead.
The voice.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve ordinance 2019-8, which is an ordinance of Iron County, Utah, adopting a new provision for urban farming by amending 17.16.020, use definitions, section 17.17.030, table of uses, section 17.36.250, the keeping of domestic animals, section 17.30.020, agricultural use classifications and definitions, section 17.3.030, swine operations, section 17.30.040, animal operations other than swine, and adding section 17.36.290, farm stand, and providing an effective date. And we want to include, and in my motion I want to include the draft that Cimbria Patterson has proposed this morning, and allowing 2 swine on an R1 half.
Would you add to, sorry to interrupt, would you add to that you can't have a brood sow?
Oh, and you cannot have a brood sow on that R1 half.
If you're fine with that.
And then knowing that we are going to revisit to look at the implications of having swine if you have an R1 half, an R5 that's zone R1 half, and work through the minutia of that at a later time, but would like to move to recommend the approval of that portion of this.
Do you want to clarify that you were talking about the revised version with the with the yellow notes.
That's what, yes, with the P changed to an A, right, on the table of uses? Is that what we need to
Yeah,
include in
well,
the
and there were
motion?
the paragraphs with the different definitions. There was the bit on page
Correct.
14.
Do we want to note, or do you want to, do we need to actually, I guess I can include that, so, and that's on page 3, with the yellow and red that was recommended as a change. Page 4, the yellow and red that was recommended to change. Page 5, the on farm stand, changing it from a P to an A. And on type 1, 0 to 5 swine, changing it to permitted.
Can I clarify on that one then?
Sure.
So do you also want that to say on the swine?
Probably just 2.
0 to 2, and 3 to, on the next category, which I don't know if that's not on there, but the next category is the 1A.
Yeah.
So that'd be 3.
Right.
Numbers
Is
how we would.
that?
So you're gonna limit it to 2 on an acre also?
No, just 2 on a half acre, but then anything bigger than that, we need to work through.
So you need another category read.
Well, that's the difficulty in trying to make these last minute changes is to see the effect in other categories. It's hard. 'Cause one of the definitions that you're suggesting, I has a problem with it because it has regulation in it. We try not to put regulation in the ordinance, in the definitions, and you know, there are other ways to do that. So it's not that I want to hold it up, but we just need to make sure we clarify and understand what it is we're doing. Another suggestion to do it is, see, currently in the R1 half and R1, the type 1A that was 6 to 20 previously was prohibited. So you're wanting to create another category that is 2 to 5, right? So that we can get 3 to 5 that would be allowed in R1 and R1 That's essentially what you're saying.
Well, R1 half would be 0 to 2.
Right.
Right.
R1 would be
3 to 5.
And then you have to go to to get over 6, you'd have to go to an 820.
Did you just resolve it?
Does
What?
Did it just get resolved?
It seems like that seems so you'd have to go clear to a 20-acre parcel, or
That's the way it current's always been. You can
Is
only
it?
have 5 up through R5, and then you've got to go to 820 to have more than 5.
Which I think makes sense, good
That's the way
sense.
it's always been on the ordinance since we've had that. 2000.
all right. So in that motion, the first column is 0 to 2 on a R1 half. We would create a new category of 3 to 5 on an R1 or R1. And then we've already got the category from 6 to 20, is it?
Mhm.
On an R20?
An A20.
Or an A20, okay.
The second category of 3 to 5 would be R1, R2, and R5.
Okay, all right. So that's my motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve this ordinance. As I won't go through all the numbers again. I think we're all on the same page. That we approve this ordinance as amended by the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Long process and a good process. And we appreciate everyone involved with it.
Can I get clarification, John? Will you send this to me so that I can make those corrections in
Yeah.
those categories?
And does somebody have this in a Word document? Because this is a PDF. It would be lovely to not have to retype all this.
Well, there's not that much. I can do it if I get a copy of this. I'm not.
I'll make you one now.
Have a copy. If I can get a copy, then I can put those in the right places. There aren't that many different changes.
See in the media room. I just made a copy. Yeah.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you so much. Okay, we have another set of minutes that John just handed me. This is the minutes of Iron County Commission meeting of September 9th, 2019 that we need to motion for approval or change.
I'll move for approval of minutes from September 19th.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the Iron County Commission meeting of September 9th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you. Item number 2, discussion regarding the county seat television program and request for possible sponsorship, presented by Chad Booth, the host. Welcome, Chad.
My name's Chad Booth. Just for the record, even though you just told everybody Alma, I'm with the county seat program. We are a local television producer that produces weekly television programs that are mostly focused on Utah. And we started as a recreation program. We, as the need became aware that counties needed a forum in which to discuss relevant and very important county issues, we launched County Seat. We're just concluding our 9th season, looking at our 10th season, and we just wanted to be able to make a few brief points and to also answer any questions that you might have about it going forward. So we had these to distribute back at USAC, and they are of the county seat program. We are fortunate this year that our original producer who started the program with us has returned in his position as producer. I guess he got a little homesick being away from all these issues, and we realized that finding somebody of that caliber with the right mindset to really understand and engage in rural issues is a lot harder to find than I originally anticipated. Yeah. People that come out of film school and journalism school have a very different perspective about real-world issues, and so we're very fortunate to have him back.
We're homesick. We were homesick for that. Yeah, what a great.
He just sent me a text when I said we haven't presented. He said, "Can I listen in?" And I said on the phone. I said I'll ask. So
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
He can watch us live.
No, just call Derek so he can listen.
He can go to YouTube and just look up Iron County Commission and watch us live. He doesn't even have to listen. He can watch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, tell him to go find it on YouTube.
We can make faces at him.
Some of the points that I would like to make about this is that this show. There's some people who say, well, who's watching? And I've had commissioners around the state say, who's watching? I never watch it. And my response to them should be, and I haven't said it yet, well, if you're not, you should be. And if you're not sharing it, you should be. These are important conversations, and many of them are relevant to many counties. We have an entire decade recorded and available in the public domain for anybody to access a history of the development of the issues of rural Utah. And if somebody wants to understand a historical perspective of, say, prairie dogs, they can follow that path on prairie dogs through the various shows we've done on it. We want to talk about if people become complacent about the current state of forest management. They can look at the struggles that we have come through over the last decade with the many times that we have addressed it. So creating this record is significant and important, so much so that the Utah State Historical Society has asked permission to put our programs into their historical record because they think we are making a history of the state. And on that basis, I think it's important that we continue this dialogue. Many of you, well, 2 of you, were not commissioners when we first started the county seat. And many times new commissioners don't realize how little of the rural voice was heard across the state on really critical issues until we started doing this. And this show is expensive to do, but when people look at saying, well, you're buying ads in a show that doesn't have the biggest audience, it was never meant to have the biggest audience. This program, if we had the biggest audience, we'd be doing things in dramatized 30-second segments and turn it into a reality show, and that's how you'd get people to watch it. However, that's not going to solve the problem of people understanding the vitality, the importance, the critical nature, and the complexity of local government. That requires a long conversation, and we have for 10 years created that conversation. There is no other place in media that you can go to have a 30-minute conversation on one topic that's important, to get full understanding of it. That would be a full-size newspaper, nearly 6 pages of copy to transcribe that dialogue. The longest radio format that I'm aware of is Rod Arquette runs 6 to 8 minutes. We spend 28 on a single topic. And the counties of the state, not just the commissioners, but the assessors, the auditors, the county officials, help us set that agenda of those topics to talk about, and we have always been willing to respond. When you look at the value, I wish I would have had the clarity of thought in Cache County a few years ago, because they had an ad agency guy who is now on their county council. And he said, well, I can buy ads much cheaper than this and reach more people. I should have said, no, you can't, because there is no other place to go for this discussion. And the focus of your determining its value should be on the value proposition of the fact that we reach those people that are influencers in the community. Now, I will grant you that not everybody watches the show, but I will guarantee you that everywhere I go in this state, having been affiliated with this show, I have somebody comment on how valuable the county seat is. It doesn't matter if it's in Grouse Creek up in Box Elder County or Montezuma Creek in San Juan County. I've had people walk up to me and say, thank you for doing the county seat. And I tell them, thank your local commissioners. So we are reaching those people that shape the actions, the dialogues, and the discussions in communities. Ralph Okerlund, Senator Okerlund, at one point said a few years ago when we were starting this program, he said this program is worth $1 million. And I just kind of chuckled at it. But in us trying to figure out how to keep the funding going, I actually contemplated this year, well, maybe the counties just need to have Channel 4 produce this instead of us producing it. So I asked them to make a bid. I said, this is what we have to do. What would you guys charge to do it? Maybe this is the better route to follow. And Ralph's figures were actually way off, because you will see in that packet their return quote at $463,000 per quarter. So it's really actually closer to $2 million is what the program is worth. But we've been able to produce it for $13,000. I've also included in that packet for your consideration an actual itemized budget of what we operate on, so that you can understand the hurdles that we have to cross and how efficiently we try to do this. It's buffered by the fact that we are already across the state in pursuit of our other program. That has always helped the costs of producing the county seat. But the topics of water recapture, prairie dogs, roads.
He's the latest star of the show, Commissioner Blake.
Rotational grazing, wild horses. These are all issues that don't affect one county. They affect many. And there are people that live on the Wasatch Front that do not understand this until there's a dialogue for it. We will be at the interim legislative session on Wednesday. I guarantee you that if you want over a 50 rating of an audience, you've got that 50 rating. Fully half of the people that work in the legislature that are office holders make a regular diet of this program because it brings them. And they've told me this. And I'm going to try and do a tally. I'm going to see if I can get them in the chamber, say, okay, who watches the county seat? But this is an important undertaking, and I would hope that we can continue to have your support to carry it forward, and that we can have your hearty support. And so I'm now available for questions. Leave me 1 second at the end because I do want to give you a quick update on our other program.
Okay. First thing, hi Derek. I hope you're out there. Welcome back. Number two, he is watching. Good. He's a great man. County government is the least understood government level of government there is. People know who their mayor is and their city council, but a lot of times they don't know who their county commissioners are. They don't understand county government and what it does, and this program helps with that situation. And we've been supporting as a half sponsor, $26,000. We've been doing half of that from transient room or restaurant, I'm not sure which one we take it out of, and half from the general fund. And we'll be having budget discussions today and tomorrow, so we will take this up in those discussions, and I would think probably continue with what we've been doing.
Well, we appreciate Iron County's support, not only in the financial side of it, but the fact that Iron County has consistently had commissioners that are not afraid to call us, and assessors and clerks to call us and say, hey, this is an issue and we should talk about it. And we have always been ready and willing to respond to try and get those dialogues going. Because if it's a problem in Iron County, I can almost guarantee there are 4 other counties in the state that are challenged with the same thing. And
I've appreciated your show. I mean, as a new commissioner, I wanted to understand the Alton Coal operation better, so I went and watched that segment, and it just opened your eyes. You see it, touch it, feel it. And there maybe a lot don't watch it on Sunday mornings. I don't ever, but I do watch it later. With social media and those links. If somebody has a question on water recharge, I can send them a link on the one we did, or with Mike's or Alma's on the Prairie Dogs, and I think it's a great tool personally.
So on that note, the other side of getting this distributed is that there are only 2 counties in the state that currently have a link on their county website to the county seat, and I think it would behoove all of the counties to incorporate it into their social media. If you have somebody handling social media, we are not distribution people as a rule. We're not like the DICIO group that does PR campaigns. We're content people. We know how to take issues, we know how to define them, we know how to explain them, and we know how to engage people in conversations about them, and that's what we do well. We have one asset going for us, a big one, is that we are a time and place every week where a dialogue is going to take place about county government, and people can count on it. And that's what those people from all corners of the state are doing, is they are counting on that conversation. And so we would ask 2 things of you. One, we'd ask for your continued support. We'd ask that you make a commitment early, and we'd ask that you share that commitment with us so we can share it with the other counties, because we really need to take a tally. Your county to the south has stopped supporting this program for the last couple of years because they felt that there were better ways for Washington County to pursue their own interests. And so, as those things happen, we need to be able to, make up that slack. Okay. Just for your edification, I just want to tell you very quickly about some changes that are happening at your leisure since Iron County was last involved with this program. We will be taking this presentation to Maria. County seat is now piped into over 18 million, or at your leisure is now piped into over 18 million homes across a wide swath of the entire country, as you can see on the back of that map. In the last year, we have picked up 3 really critical television audiences, and I might add on broadcast stations, not on cable stations, in Las Vegas, San Francisco, and we are just starting in Los Angeles. They're not the biggest stations. It's Channel 20, and it's Channel 15, and it's Channel 27, respectively. But when you look at the size of those markets, a .005 rating in Los Angeles is equal to a 3-point rating in Salt Lake. And so the message is out there, and it's the quality of the program that makes people interested in the fact that networks continue to call us and ask us to add it to it. So the content from At Your Leisure, I'm sorry, I was in county seat mode far too long. The content from At Your Leisure is being very broadly distributed. In fact, Fun Roads Network, who put us on the air in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Las Vegas, asked us if they could rerun best ofs. And we've sent them 10 years of the show. So the stories and content, I mean, we're like Andy Griffith, or Andy of Mayberry. We're on a serial strip 6 days a week in those 3 cities, and then our new shows in a primetime spot at 7:30 p.m. on Thursday nights, which
Like
is
10 years younger too.
Yeah, at least. We were just commenting on that as we looked up an early show. We were trying to find Commissioner Johnson on a show from Beaver County, with his recent passing. So we found it. What's that?
I didn't realize he had passed away.
I just got notice of it like 2 days ago. So. His funeral is Wednesday, if any of you are interested. Anyway, we'll be reaching out. We have enjoyed the association with our emphasis on off-road recreation and the emphasis that Iron County is placing on trail development. I think there's an abundant opportunity for us to bring a niche market that spends money. A recent study commissioned by the Department of Interior shows that off-highway vehicle recreation, motorized recreation, produces more economic impact in a community, almost double of all the rest of them combined. And with Utah growing from 60,000 registered ATVs when we started our program to 202,000 today, that should be some indication as to how people are recreating. Let's distribute them. Let's get them out in new trails. Let's help those small communities on the fringes that don't get a lot of tourism traffic by bringing people to their town. And we are equipped to do that. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you.
No,
Chad
thank
and
you.
Rhea.
Great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item 3, public comments. Our public comment period is open. If you'd like to make a comment, please come forward and state your name. And we do have a 3-minute limit on this one, as much as possible.
My name is William Pressgrove. I want to thank you for your service. I want to let you know that I'm well aware of the fact that either the book that I gave you is collecting dust or is a paperweight. And I don't think that it's been broken open and perused at all.
It's on my nightstand competing with 2 other books I'm reading.
Okay. Well, let me give you some idea of what I want to get across today. The commission is probably one of the only places where compassion is spread out throughout the county. Okay, but what I want to tell you today is the compassion that is being spread is counterproductive. On page 120 of that book that I gave you, Ben Franklin's views on counterproduction or counterproductive compassion might be summarized as follows. Number 1, the compassion that gives the drunk the means to increase his drunkenness is counterproductive. I'm pretty sure that you'll agree with that. Number 2, it says compassion which breeds debilitating dependency and weakness is counterproductive. I'll get into that a little bit later. Number 3, compassion that blunts the desire or necessity to work for a living is counterproductive. And number 4, it says compassion which smothers the instinct to strive and excel is counterproductive. To tie that to the county, the County Code 17-02-040 applicability states this. It says, no building may be erected or existing building shall be moved, altered, or enlarged, nor shall any land, building, or premises be used, designed, or intended to be used for any purpose or in any manner other than is allowed by this title or amendments thereto, and as allowed and authorized by any other provision of the Iron County Land Management Code. How do these correlate? Well, it says here that compassion that blunts the desire or necessity to work for a living is counterproductive, and also that compassion that smothers instinct to strive and excel is counterproductive. Well, this ordinance, the way it's written, says that you are the are the compassionate individuals that everybody has to go to do anything with their property in the county. Now, that may be compassionate for some, but for others it's not compassionate. So it is actually diminishing the individual's rights as individuals to be productive and to strive to excel, because they have to get everything approved by the county. It actually puts you, as a county commission, in charge of everything that happens on individuals' property within the county. So if some people are happy with it, that's fine. But for those people that are not happy with it, you're the basis of the foundation for that unhappiness. I strongly suggest that you take a really close look at the zoning of this county, and specifically that section that I just read, because I want to be able to do with my property what I see fit. But that says I can't. It says that I have to have Mother May I from the county commission in order to do it. And if you remember Mother May I, there would be people that would be trying to sneak up on one side while the monitor is looking at other people, and that's exactly what's happening in the county. I would venture to say that 90% of the people that buy land in this county have no clue that they can't do anything with that land without the commissioner's permission. And so they're going ahead and doing it because they don't know any better. It is counterproductive to the growth of this county for the commission to have an ordinance that says that nobody can do anything without your permission. It should be that they can do what they please unless the county says that they can't. But when you say that you can't do anything without the commission's approval, then you have just smothered their strive to excel, their ability to advance themselves in a manner that they see fit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there other comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, Resolution 2019-9, declaring the intent of the county to issue up to $9 million of revenue bonds under the Utah Industrial Facilities and Development Act for the benefit of the Dixie and Ann Levitt Family Foundation and providing for related matters, requested by Brian Berksey, but I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Alan Jones, whose name I can pronounce, is here from Levitt.
Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt real quick. I need to recuse myself on this item.
Okay. Right. Fine.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams, and thank you all commissioners for hearing this item today. This is a request for the commission to pass its resolution of intent to authorize the issuance of up to $9 million of facilities bonds, which would
we're just starting to have, we're discussing that item now.
I'll wait for
thanks, sorry.
County clerk to get bond counsel on.
This Ryan
Yerke.
Yerke, You're on speaker, Ryan.
As I was saying, this is. Go ahead. I'll.
Welcome, Ryan. You're on speaker and next to the microphone.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Just to make certain, and I apologize that I couldn't be there. Do you want me to go ahead and introduce the resolution here and then open the time for questions?
That'd be fine.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Perfect. So the resolution that we have before you is very similar to a resolution that was adopted a few years ago, where the county is basically starting the process to issue some of its industrial development bonds for the benefit of the Dixon Ann Lovett Family Foundation to finance some student housing. The bonds are what are considered conduit bonds. They're issued by the county on behalf of the foundation in order for the foundation to take advantage of various tax exemptions under federal tax law. Because they're conduit bonds, the purchasers of the bonds look to the foundation for payment and not to the county. Attached to the resolution are forms of an indenture and a loan agreement that show that payment will come solely from payments made by the foundation under the loan agreement to the county, which are assigned basically to the payment of the bonds. Again, this is a process that we went through just a few years ago, and we appreciate the county's help with those bonds, and we're asking the county to again consider this resolution for the issuance of these additional bonds to finance a new facility. And they're asking, the foundation is asking that the county issue up to $9 million of these facility revenue bonds in order to help finance that facility. This resolution starts the process. It authorizes the publication of certain notices and the holding of a public hearing. The foundation would then come before the county again for the adoption of a final resolution, which approves kind of the final forms of the documents and delegates signing information. The current plan would be for us to bring that resolution at the commissioner's next meeting in November, and to have the public hearing at that same meeting prior to presentation of the resolution. With that in mind, are there any questions?
I know the answer to this question, Ryan. This is Alma Adams, one of the commissioners. But for the public's information, would you explain, or the question is, does doing these bonds obligate the county in any way financially?
So let me just make sure I heard the question, and that was if I could clarify whether or not these bonds obligate the county in any way. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So again, these bonds are issued in the county's name only. There is no obligation on the county to make any payments. Bond purchasers look at the loan agreement between the county and the foundation to see that the foundation has agreed to pay all costs associated with the bonds and is the party that's solely liable for the payment of the bonds, not the county.
What if they happen to default?
If they have a default, again, the purchasers of the bonds look only to the foundation and not to, I apologize for that, my office phone is going off, look not to the county for those payments whatsoever. So it's only the security stream that's pledged under the indenture, which is the loan payments from the foundation.
Thank you.
What about would these bonds affect the county's ability to acquire indebtedness in the future?
These bonds would not affect the county's ability to obtain its own bonding. The only thing that it might affect is if the county were planning to issue bonds before the end of the year and those bonds were under $10 million, there are certain benefits that you can get for issuing less than $10 million in a year. If the county was planning that direction, there may be, we can talk about how that might work. But otherwise, the county would have its own revenue streams that would be pledged for its own payment of bonds, and rating agencies and others would not look to these bonds as affecting the county's borrowings.
We are planning on issuing about $1 million.
Could you come up to the microphone, Dan?
That's all I have to say.
Okay.
So we are planning on issuing about $1 million in bonds before the end of the year. Do we need to have more discussion regarding that? Was that going to affect us negatively?
Did you hear that, Ryan?
I did not.
So the question is, we do anticipate issuing about $1 million in bonds before the end of the year. Is that something we may want to have a discussion about before we move forward?
If you're planning to issue $1 million of bonds before the end of the year, I don't think it would affect it because we put in $9 million with the expectation that less than $9 million would be issued. So you should still be under the $10 million limit. The question would be is if you end up issuing more than that, we may need to check into it just a little bit.
Okay.
Reed has a comment.
Also, those bonds won't be issued until January 15th of next year, so they won't actually occur in 2019.
So the actual bonds won't be issued until within 2020, Ryan?
Oh.
Okay, so I
So
guess
the county's bonds won't be issued until 2020?
Correct. Is that correct?
Oh, okay, and we may need to see, we're working together with the foundation, and I think the foundation's hope is that we can close before the end of this year. So I don't think that would have an effect, given that they look at it on a calendar year basis.
That's correct, and I would add that if the $9 million that the foundation is requesting and the $1 million that the county indicates it will be issuing were to somehow limit what the county could do with the $1 million, the foundation would certainly reduce its amount to enable the county to issue the $1 million that it may need to issue before the end of the year, if that were to become a question.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Anything else, Ryan?
As long as there were no other questions for me, and I apologize, I couldn't hear the statements being made, so I'm not sure if there was a question there or not.
Oh, it was just Alan Jones saying that if there were a conflict, the Levitt Foundation would be willing to reduce their borrowing amount commensurate to keep Iron County under that $10 million limit. But I think it looks like the goal may be to get one set of bonding done in 2019, and the county would be free to bond again in 20. So.
Yeah, and we can work with the county definitely to make sure we don't cause any impact there.
The foundation's intent is certainly to close these before the end of the year.
Okay, any other questions or comments regarding this resolution? Okay, seeing none, I call for the motion.
I would move for the approval of Resolution 2019-9, declaring the intent of the county to issue up to $9 million of revenue bonds under the Utah Industrial Facilities and Development Act for the benefit of the Dixie and Ann Levitt Family Foundation, providing for related matters.
I recuse.
Oh, see how long my memory is. Second, it's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2019-9, declaring the intent of the county to issue up to $9 million in revenue bonds as stated in the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries with one recusal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.
We have a growing.
Okay. Bye.
We definitely have a growing university that needs more housing, so we appreciate the foundation helping with that. This time we will adjourn as County Commission and convene as the Board of Equalization. Item number 5, review and approve the Board of Equalization hearing officer's recommendation for adjustments for the 2019 year, presented by Carrie Christiansen of the Auditor's Office. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that very first report is our master log. This report is generated by our taxing and assessing software. All the appeals I entered for the 2019 year are entered in that software. The major report is the second report, the Board of Equalization applications. It shows you this year we had 187 appeals filed, which is the lowest it's ever been since for the 13 years I've been doing Board of Equalization. It's amazing. Of that, you'll see at the very end, there's a key that shows the color codes of what those appeals are. There were 98 stipulations. Stipulations are agreements made between the assessor's office and the appellant. They come to an agreed value and they stipulate, which precludes any right to appeal on the appellant's behalf. So once a stipulation is reached, those appeal rights are no longer available to them. We had 3 withdrawals, 14 adjustments, 18 no adjustments, 3 dismissals, and 59 assessor's adjustments.
What was the last one? 59 what?
59 assessor's adjustments. Those are appeals that are filed from the assessor's office, either by errors that they've located or mistakes made that they're correcting. It could be acreage issues that were corrected, changes that were made after the assessor's adjustments for sales that were purchased for private ownership to exempt ownership. Those kinds of things happen, and those assessors make those adjustments. We did a total of $9,820,169 worth of market value adjustments. You'll see on that report we did $7,744,605 in taxable value adjustments. I did also provide the last report, a commission report that shows those adjustments broken out in each taxing authority area. And the difference it's going to hit your budgets for taxable revenue that's reduced based on those adjustments, for a total of county general fund taxes reduction of $12,352.64, and municipal service difference of $2,766.40, for a total of $15,119.05 in lost revenue for adjustments made during our Board of Equalization.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? We appreciate our folks that take care of the Board of Equalization.
It's like a lot of work.
It is. This year was relatively easy, but we've had as many as 1,700 appeals in years past, so it can be a lot of work. I work with the assessor's office are great people to work with. They are very knowledgeable in their job, so it makes my job easier. So I appreciate their willingness to work with me and the wonderful job they do.
And
we much appreciate
We do. We have excellent hearing officers.
And I forgot to mention during Cindy's report this morning, but I appreciate the invitation to attend Board of Equalization, and I was able to sit through a little bit of it. I got a better understanding and appreciation of the process, and I appreciate all the hard work that goes into that.
We appreciate you coming too. Thank you.
That was a great experience, an educational experience.
I'll try for next year. I couldn't make it.
Yeah, no worries.
Same here. I keep trying. We used to do this on our own, but we now have a hired hearing officer, which has really helped the situation. It's been a great improvement. We've been doing that for quite a few years now. Years fly by, but that was a great improvement. And anyway, again, many thanks, and I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the Board of Equalization hearing officer's recommendation for adjustments for the 2019 year.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the Board of Equalization hearing officer's recommendation for adjustments for the 2019 year. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
There you go. Okay, and while we're still in Board of Equalization, item number 6, review and consider for approval for low-income and homeowners tax credit, blind, and veteran abatements for the 2019 tax year through October 7th, 2019, presented by Christine Louder, Chief Deputy Auditor.
Hey, thank you. I was just thinking when Carrie was talking about the hearing officers and how the commissioners used to hear that back in the good old days when I first started. Anybody that had an appeal or that wanted to appeal their market value, they just showed up. We just had a time, and I remember one night we were here till almost midnight. And what would happen is they'd come in and say what property it was, and then somebody from the assessor's office would run down and get the account number, then they'd run back and pull the file, and kind of was cold turkey. So it's
come a long ways,
improved a lot since then. That was crazy. So anyway, okay, so back to abatements. It's every year's a little bit different. I did not print out anything, but hopefully you have what I submitted to the clerk's office available to you. I did provide this year's totals thus far, as well as the grand total for 2017 and 18. I just went back that far. As far as the number of abatements in 2017, we ended up with 1,379. This year, thus far, we have 1,411. I say that's not my stuff. That's okay. That's okay.
Pages on that bond.
Oh, it was.
So.
Scrolling through that last night.
By the way, you guys can't leave. We have a lot of signing to do.
Okay. So there is a definite need for these programs within the county. And Dan mentioned the programs this morning. The one that he couldn't remember is a special abatement. So there is the special abatement, the blind, the circuit breaker, and the veterans abatement. The veterans can apply.
16, Paul.
The veterans can apply year-round and receive an abatement. They can apply it towards their house as well as vehicle registration, and it waives the county portion of that fee. The special is for individuals that are 65 by the end of the tax year or younger, and they're either on a limited income or on disability. 66 or older, or widows or widowers of any age can apply for the circuit breaker. And then the blind one obviously is for individuals that are legally blind. And then the veterans program is for veterans that have a service-connected disability through the VA of 10% or more. I wish it was for any veteran that served, but I'm not in charge, so that's the way it is right now. So those, and I don't have my glasses on, but I think that's page
second page
2. Okay. Okay, so the total amount that has been abated is $907,729.78. If you look at that, the majority of that is veterans. We have 475 veterans that take advantage of this program, and just abating their properties was almost $17,000. So we have a lot of veterans in Iron County of various ages. So anyway, do you have any questions on either any of the numbers, on the programs, how it works?
We're good. We're glad to help our veterans, and this doesn't mean that this is revenue that's taken away from the county. It means that the other taxpayers pay the burden, which I personally am happy to help pay that burden for our marvelous veterans.
We do receive a portion of it back, or we will, not on the veterans program, but on the circuit breaker program, we will receive a portion of it back. I won't have a final number until the 1st of December, but right now we will receive $181,213.14 from the state of Utah, and that is what they will refund to us for the circuit breaker program.
Okay.
So.
All right. Any Further discussion or questions?
No.
Okay.
I would move for approval of item number 6, review and consider approval for low income and homeowner tax credit blind and veteran abatements for the 2019 tax year through October 7th, 2019.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the low income and homeowners tax credit blind and veteran abatements for the 2019 tax year through October 7th of this year. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Christine. We'll now leave Board of Equalization and reconvene as Iron County Commission. Item number 7, discussion and possible action, authorization for the County Commission Chair to sign the amended plat for the Town Center Condominiums Festival Hall as an owner of property in the condominium presented by Reed Erickson. So we've got budget interviews this afternoon, so I'm going to try to hurry up. And anyway.
I'll make this quick.
Yeah, okay.
The county owns property in Festival Hall as an owner of the condominium association, and therefore is required to sign on the plat. The downstairs space that does not belong to the county is being divided into 2 parcels through the city's condominium and subdivision ordinance, and so we're just simply clarifying that the county is authorizing the commission chair to sign on behalf of the county to that plat when it becomes available. They were supposed to bring it to me this morning. I don't have it, but you had copies of the subdivision plat and what was occurring there, so it's just dividing a lower space of which we do not actually own, but we're fine with.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion on this item if there's no further discussion.
Move to authorize the County Commission Chair, Commissioner Adams, to sign the amended plat for the Town Center Condominiums Festival Hall as an owner of the property in the condominium.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve, authorize the County Commission Chair to sign the amended plat for the Town Center Condominiums as an owner of that in that property. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 8, discussion and authorization for grant application, UDOT Technical Planning Assistance Program, TPA, coordination with local cities and towns on transportation planning request of $50,000 with local match of 6.77%. Again, presented by Reed. Thank you, Reed.
This came to our attention 5 days prior to it being the deadline for the grant, so we hurried and submitted a grant.
Excellent.
UDOT actually is the grant applicant. They are the sponsor. We are the applicant, and they believe that this is a good option for us. It's an attempt to coordinate with all of the cities and towns in the county the master transportation plans of where their major corridors are coming in and out of the towns and where ours are. We have differing master plans currently on the location for master planned roads, the widths, the standards for those roads, and we thought this is a great opportunity to get some funding that can help us sit down with the cities and counties, identify our cities and towns, and identify all of the conflict areas we may have, both with transportation and land use as it affects transportation. And this seemed to meet all of the goals of what this program was trying to accomplish. They got at one time $1 million to try to distribute across the state. We're sure there will be a lot more requests than that. We're not sure we'll get grant funded, but this would be a project. Our match of 6.77% would be $3,385, which isn't a lot of money compared to what we would get out of it, and that money could also be approved through the local corridor preservation fund as planning assistance for transportation corridors. So we felt like it was a legitimate cause, and I'll keep you posted on whether we get the money or not. And it would just be a consideration that we put in the budget so that we would have that available to us. We just became aware of this week. Hurried and got an application in on Friday. So
thanks for that.
Thank you.
Work. Will this be administered through the RPO, the rural?
No, this would be directly to the by the county. Through the county, we would involve the RPO to help coordinate that, but it would be a county project.
Thank you. RPO means Rural Planning Organization. Okay, thanks very much. I'll entertain a motion on that.
I would move to approve the authorization for grant application, UDOT Technical Planning Assistance Program, coordination with local cities and towns of transportation planning, request of $50,000 with local match of 6.77%.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we authorize the grant application for the UDOT Technical Planning Assistance Program. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 9, discussion and approval of contract for general contractor for the remodel of the Iron County Justice Center building, office, and break room, presented by Lester Ross. Good morning, Lester.
Good morning. Sorry, my closing date wasn't enough time to get you guys this information prior to the meeting. The papers that matter are the front ones. The back one is just a copy of the RFP. We had two qualified bidders for this remodel project. This particular project was not on the approved projects for the year, but we do have the funding for it in the current budget. But if you look on the map on this one, which is like 4 pages in, what we're essentially doing is moving a wall in the building department office. And in doing that, we're going to be able to create a break room for the building department, the engineer's office, and also the DMV area, and also the guards. We'll be able to access a break room. We had a discussion a little bit about trying to find one last year, but this plan was turned down last year, but I brought it forward again, and we feel it's a good viable option. We had two bidders, Braun Construction and Travis Larson's Construction. Braun Construction was the apparent low bidder. Going through his documents, he had a little bit of confusion, which was understandable in the project because especially under the flooring, because some of the flooring was not included and some of it was supposed to be included, and he didn't include any of the flooring. And so I gave him a total flooring allowance. Mainly reason because it's the next RFP will be flooring for the rest of the building, is why flooring was not included in this project. And also I felt on Braun's ones, he was planning on reusing the cabinets, our existing cabinetry, and during the bidding process and talking with more individuals, we don't see it being feasible to reuse those ones. It's going to be easier just to move them aside and have them custom built them for the new space. So I included an allowance on both of them, which still puts him as the low bidder for $24,835. These type of projects, I do like to have a buffer zone, and that's where that 10% come in. And so the total for this project would be $27,319. And that would be awarding the contract to Braun Construction.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
I'll move to approve Braun Construction as the general contractor for the remodel of the Iron County Justice Center building, office, and break room.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the contract for general contractor of Braun Construction for the remodel of the Iron County Justice Center building, office, and break room. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The amount being $27,319.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Good. Okay, item number 10, discussion and approval of contract for flooring contractor for the carpet replacement at the Iron County Justice Center, also presented by Lester Ross.
All right, this one we actually only had one bidder, which was not that surprising. It's the size of the project. Most of the companies in the area is just, they don't have the manpower for it. But the Pioneer Floor Covering gave us a bid. It came slightly higher than our my budgeted estimate, but it's still not terrible. The cost to re-carpet the Justice Center, and this is going to be a carpet tile similar to this one here. You know, it's in this building. But the total for that one is $91,199.05.
What was your estimate?
My estimate was 80,000.
So how much is this per square foot? Do you have the
if you go onto there,
yards, I guess it is.
You're roughly, the carpet itself is $21.50 a square foot, or not the how it works out. The carpet is $4.50 a square foot, and all the labor and everything to put it in comes down to about $21.50 a square foot, and then you break down to everything else. There's just little bits here and there. That also includes on this, or in this is also, the contractor is the one that does have to move the desks and all the offices and all the furniture. They have to move them and then put them back. They won't do the computers. We'll have to coordinate with myself and IT to be, disconnecting them and then reconnecting them. But it is very labor intensive, so.
Yes. Any questions or comments?
No. I would move for approval the contract for floor contractor for the carpet replacement at the Iron County Justice Center as bid by Pioneer Floor Coverings in the amount of $91,199.05.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve of the contract for flooring and the replacement of the flooring in the Iron County Justice Center in the amount of $91,199.05. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And hopefully we do as good as we did last time. The current floor was about 15 years old, we figured.
So, yeah, that's pretty good for a public building. Okay, item number 11. We're going to keep Lester up here for a while longer. Discussion and approval of contract for the building of the Dale M. Brinkerhoff Pavilion for the Iron County Courthouse in Parowan, presented by Lester Ross. Why is everybody smiling?
We had a couple of discussions on whether to keep that name the same.
So
I like the name.
As you're aware, this is a project that was actually kind of slated back when we remodeled the building, and then we poured the pad for this. We had two successful bidders, Church Construction and Iron Gate Builders. Iron Gate being the low bidder. It's my recommendation we accept their contract on there, and I sent it too late to John, but I do actually, there's a picture in there of the pavilion, of what it will be looking like. And we will be purchasing a couple tables to go with this out of the budget as well. But the total for this project with a 10% contingency on this is $23,100. There is slight change with Iron Gate's proposal that working with it. Instead of having the wood posts, we're actually going to do powder-coated metal posts coming up.
Good.
And I'm going to actually go to them, have them, and I'm going to look at the cost difference of, instead of doing aluminum siding and soffit underneath it, to get the cost of just stuccoing to match the building. But
so the pavilions the LDS Church uses at their buildings, I've built two of those, or put two of them together past years. But have you looked at those at all? Or is this just built from scratch, or
yeah,
is it
this is pretty much. You have headers on each end and trusses.
Just wood trusses.
Just wood trusses and enclosed. Talking with when I worked with Go Civil Engineering on the plan, and this was kind of the cheapest option that we could find. When you go to the like the church uses those, they're really
with
pretty.
The laminated.
With laminated.
Yeah. P&G on the inside.
Yeah, that actually shoots the cost up quite a bit.
Okay.
That's what though. In this one I'm also including a couple some lights in there, and there'll be at least one power outlet. And just little stuff to kind of make it a little nicer. But
Good. And the concrete's already in place from the remodel.
Yeah.
So it'll be good.
It'll
And
be
then
a-
that will get it done just in time so you can have lunch out there on Christmas.
That's right. It'll be a tremendous addition for the building, though.
It will
really
be. Yeah.
Commissioner Blake is committed to cook for us, I think, too.
Oh,
I did. I said that when the I proposed that it was going to be the Dale and Brinkerhoff Memorial Smoking Porch, but since we don't really, since it's probably our job to dissuade people from actually smoking, and we don't really have many smokers here in the building that I'm aware of, I'm good for the removal of the smoking porch moniker. But I still have committed, once it's finished, I will come and cook some food for the county employees or whoever else wants to stop by. I'll provide lunch.
Is that a motion?
That's probably a little complicated. I'll leave the motion to you.
If you buy me lunch, I'll do the rest of the motion.
Right.
It's a deal.
All right, I move to approve the contract to be awarded to Iron Gate Builders in the total of $23,100 for the Dale M. Brinkerhoff Pavilion for the Iron County Courthouse in Parowan.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the contract for the building of the Dale M. Brinkerhoff Pavilion for Iron County Courthouse, given to Iron Gate Builders, $23,100. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Lester. Item 12, consideration and approval of Utah Division of Parks and Recreation Off-Highway Vehicle Fiscal Incentive Grant submission. Grant is to purchase equipment attachments to maintain OHV trails, trailheads, and parking areas, presented by Mike Worthen. Morning,
Thanks,
Mike.
Commission. This grant is a new grant that was approved through the legislature. It's specifically for off-highway physical incentive grant issued quarterly, and allows the counties to submit a grant proposals for up to $12,500 per quarter, which is a good grant, with the intent of developing and more emphasis on OHV trails. Anyway, along with the OHV trails that we've been developing in the county comes the maintenance of those trails. And maintenance of those trails is one of the things that can be done with these grants. So what we're planning on doing is purchasing some a post hole digger, an auger, and also a brush cutter. And then later on we'll apply for a blade and some more attachments. But as you can see, the cost of those attachments is $8,452. In-kind match, that would be what the roads department, they have agreed to maintain the equipment for us, and with their understanding that they would be able to use it on trails and roads also. So it's a good fit, and that would be $600 for this grant, a total of $9,052.
9,000 what?
$52.
9,052. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right, any discussion or questions? I'd entertain a motion.
I would move for approval of the Utah Division of Parks and Recreation Off-Highway Vehicle Fiscal Incentive Grant submission. Grants to this purchase equipment attachments to grant is to purchase equipment attachments to maintain OHV trails, trailheads, and parking areas in the amount of $9,052.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve of the Utah Division of Parks and Recreation off-highway vehicle grant for by equipment to maintain the trails. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. In the amount of $9,052, as mentioned in the motion. Yes.
Mike, what is the timing of this? Will it be 2020?
It'll be tomorrow is the deadline for submittal, so they'll start going through that process, and I expect it to be issued around the 1st of January, so it'll be 2020 purchases.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll put it in the timing that has to be purchased. And everything else in there.
Are we in competition, or are you reasonably assured that this will be granted?
There's pretty good competition right now, so I'm hopeful that the maintenance of the trails is enough to push it up pretty good.
Good. Thank you very much for your work on that. Item 13, personnel. Adrian, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Under personnel, agenda item A. Since August 29th, I've been talking to Reed, who's, as you'll remember, is taking on added duties associated with the building and zoning administrator position. And in talking with Reed, Terry Palmer, one of our Iron County building inspector and zoning officers, has been acting as a building official. Is that correct? Okay, building official is the correct term. Just some added duties, added responsibilities, again, in the absence of the vacancy of the building and zoning administrator. For that reason, we're asking for consideration to possibly approve a 2% increase for Terry Palmer, just in the interim until we get the reorganization and the backfill of that position, just for the added duties and responsibilities that he's undertaken since August 29th. So also would ask for consideration for that to be, I made an incorrect note here in the agenda. Instead of September 22nd, we'd ask that we be able to approve that back to September 8th, which is the beginning of the pay period following him taking on those responsibilities.
What was the August 29th date?
The August 29th is when he was asked to do it and actually started.
You want it to take effect September 8th?
September 8th would be the pay period following that, and I think is reasonable if we can do that, please.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that one separate.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve a 2% increase for Terry Palmer effective September 8th, 2019. Do we know an amount, or I guess we don't, where it's just we don't know, it's fluid right now?
Yeah, and it would be just, again, temporary, depending on kind of the outcome in terms of how we backfill that position. I can give you an amount. It's that 2% amounts to a 58-cent per hour increase.
Okay, I'll include that in my motion to be a 58-cent temporary increase in his salary.
Okay.
Second that.
Then moved and seconded that we approve the temporary 2% pay increase for Terry Palmer effective September 8th in the building department, 58 cents per hour. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay.
Okay, and the next one under corrections, as you're probably aware, we've gone through the interview and testing process to backfill the Lieutenant Jail Commander position in the Iron County Sheriff's Office. As part of that process, Shalon Shaver has been identified and extended the offer to fill that position, and has actually been operating as such since October 6th, 2019. This is in response to the recent retirement of Lieutenant Cuthers. So we're asking for approval of that promotion to be effective, again, October 6th, 2019. And per Iron County policy, with it being a qualifying promotion, with that would be a 5% pay increase. But then after 6 months in the position and after an acceptable performance evaluation that will be conducted by Sheriff Carpenter at the time, basically it's a 6-month testing and training period. As part of that approval, would request that we just be able to include an adjustment up to $74,256 after that 6-month period, which would be commensurate with her experience and and more applicable to really what the extensive responsibilities and job duties of that would be. So again, 5% in the interim, but then after the 6-month mark, if we can ask to be able to just adjust that upwards up to $72,256, $74,256. I think that would be a reasonable request.
Okay, I entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the promotion for Shalon Shaver from Sergeant to Lieutenant / Jail Commander effective October 6, 2019. Note that it is a backfill of a vacant position due to a retirement. At present time, approve a 5% pay increase, but after 6 months of completion of successful probation, as determined by Sheriff Carpenter, that amount would raise to $74,256 annually.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve of the promotion for Shalon Shaver as the Lieutenant and Jail Commander. As stated in the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
And then I think I can probably just combine the last three. I think they're just simple. So the next one, in the IT department, we had a vacancy created and then we went through the recruiting and hiring process to get a new web developer. And through that process, Taylor Sella, last name spelled C-E-L-L-A, was identified and offered the position. And actually is starting today, October 14th, 2019. So we're just looking for formal approval of that new hire. And again, that's a backfill of a vacant position. The next one under Part D, the Sheriff Department, we had a transfer of Eric Roman from Correction Deputy to Patrol Deputy with the effective date of October 20th, 2019. And that is a vacancy created by the approval of a new hire. That's that was the new deputy that was recently approved when we moved another deputy into patrol, is the way I understand it. And then this was created a backfill situation for to transfer Deputy Roman over from corrections to patrol. And then we'll be backfilling that corrections deputy position, and we're in the process of doing that with the creation of a new roster. The last one is the approval to promote Sean Peterson from Deputy 2 to Corporal with the effective date of October 6, 2019. And that was a backfill of a vacant position that will create another need for a deputy to be recruited for the patrol side.
Just consider it job security for you, right?
It's we're have some movement. So seems like there's always something under personnel, but we like it. It keeps us busy, and things are just growing, and but we've been able to get some good people, so we're happy about that.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion on those three items.
Okay, in the IT department, I would move to approve the new hire of Taylor Sella as web. Did I say that right, Sella?
Yes.
As web developer effective October 14th, 2019. That's a backfill position. And then the Sheriff's Department, number one, approval of transfer for Eric Roman from Correction Deputy to Patrol Deputy effective October 20th, 2019. And that's to fill a vacancy created by the approval of new hire. And two, approval of promotion for Sean Peterson from Deputy 2 to Corporal. That's effective October 6th, 2019, backfill of a vacant position.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the three positions, one in IT for Taylor Sella, with two in the Sheriff Department, Eric Roman and Sean Peterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
It looked like we had a whole bunch of items. I think we're going to get done by noon. We went right through them.
If you hustle.
Well, we actually had 2 days last week, and then this afternoon and tomorrow we're hoping to wrap it up. talking about wrap it up. What?
He said tomorrow.
I said.
Killing too many trees.
I said today. Didn't you? I said today. I'm the one that's deaf. I said today and tomorrow.
It's a renewable resource, so.
Today and tomorrow. I'm not going to be here tomorrow. No, I'm just
Are we here both today and tomorrow?
Yeah.
Dale M. Brinkerhoff Smokers Porch. Dale M. Brinkerhoff Memorial Smoking Porch.
Okay. I don't think I mixed them with anyone.
We can
Thank you,
donate
Adrian, very much. Anything on non-delegated Prairie Dog matters?
Happily none.
County boards? Hey,
No.
Chair, any discussion on anything else? Chair declares this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.